Hi and welcome to Magic Numbers. This is episode number 189. When did that happen? And today we're going to be talking about the right cards for right decks in Marvel Superhero set, which means I'm going to go through basically all the cards in the set that have data for each archetype, and I'm going to try to showcase you cards that are maybe on the lower side in terms of the win rate, but they have one home where they can be actually good. And also I'm going to be showing you the cards that are universally good, because it's important to know which ones those are. And I think that this particular set has a lot of those. A lot of the cards that are just genuinely good in any situation, but there are some gems that are performing quite better in some houses, in some colors than the others. Before we go into that, I'd like to thank my patrons, and especially the new patrons. And we have Leander, who joined and already joined the Discord and is contributing happily with his amazing clustering model that is a bit different from the one that I showcased to you. So if you are not on the Discord, you might pop in and check out what Leander has produced. It's actually quite cool. Fogo, who appeared and disappeared instantly, but I still get the paycheck for 1 month at least. So thank you very much for that. That's a good way of sponsoring your content creator on a short-term basis without dedicating yourself. So just pop in, become a member, cancel your membership, see the slides while you were there. Fun times. And Nick, who also joined recently and also was in chat with me. So yeah, nice to see all those new people coming in. Right, with that out of the way, as I have to do, because Patreon is my only sponsorship right now. So I definitely cherish every single one of my patrons. We can move on to the actual episode. But one perk of the patrons is you can ask question of the week. And I had two. I only could select one for this week. So next one is going to happen in the next episode I'm going to record. But this one is, do you think color imbalance is a bug or a feature from a set designers or game designers perspective? And in a true content creator style, I'm going to answer it in a round way. So I do think there is merits in color imbalance for a game player, and therefore there are good ways for the game designer to utilize the imbalances, especially in a format like draft, where color imbalance is something that lets players learn the format. In a perfectly balanced format, you just need to know how to draft, because every color is playable, everything is doable, and because of that, you just see what is open, you draft it, and you play it. You need to learn which cards are good and whatnot, but there is not much figuring out around that. In balanced format, which arguably Marvel Superheroes is, you have multiple ways. You can either learn how to abuse the system and draft blue-white, which is the best color combination, or you can, and I've seen people do that, learn how to utilize those less drafted colors and build something around it. The 4 historically was very good in exactly that. Limited streamer, now a full-fledged pro player, the 4. Where, for example, in Bloomborough, where Otter's deck was not good, the 4 just claimed it was the best thing ever and drafted it and trophied regularly with the Otter's deck. Now, the question is, can anyone replicate the 4 strategy? Not 100%, I guess, because not many of us are at the level that lets you day 2 Pro Tours routinely. But to some extent, if you know what to look for in those lesser colors, you can learn to do something. And of course, this ties neatly to this episode, because we're going to learn the cards that are maybe underperform as general, but overperform as somewhere. But there is another thing that I wanted to touch on when the question was asked to me. And I do think that when we talk about color imbalance, it's convoluted. I think that we're talking about two different things, and we conflate them into one thing. I think that there are two different versions of color imbalance. They often feed each other, but not always, as I'm hopefully going to make a case for you. I think that there is a card file color imbalance, which means that one or two of the colors were made more powerful by the set designers. And that's one thing. And there is also metagame imbalance. And this thing is not the same. It means that, yes, colors can be in an imbalance in a draft environment, but if people draft well, they will take that into account. More people will draft white and blue, for example, in this set. Fewer people will draft red. Because fewer people draft red, maybe those red decks can be powerful enough. If more people draft white and blue, well, the power of those decks is going to be diluted between multiple drafters, and because of that, maybe those decks are not going to be as winning as they should. Why I think it's important to distinguish that? Well, because I think that one of the biggest limited failures in the recent years was Phyrexia LB1. And I do think that part of it was because the normal mechanism that create metagame and therefore reduce the card file color imbalance didn't work in that set. And I have a very good hypothesis why. I do think that, first of all, in the card file, the poison counters archetypes, which were mainly white and black, were not powerful. Those poison synergies were just not strong enough. But human nature is such that we draft with a lot of people who just want to get that poison kill. Because of that, people didn't stop drafting white and black accordingly to its power because they wanted that kick from doing poison counters. And because they wanted that kick from the poison counters, people who were spiky and wanted to win and wanted to draft red and green that were powerful, or I think red and green was the most powerful archetype in that particular set. They could, because at every pod you will get 2 or 3 people fighting for poison cards when the actual good cards were passed. And this was an example, and one of the few examples where the self-correcting nature of draft didn't work. Didn't work because human nature overridden the natural tendency to win and then offered something that we could not resist as a cohort of players. And because of that, the self-correction did not work. Most of the time, in most of the formats, if you play in the late format, and I think that more people should play in the late format limited because that's where it's at its best. It's of course nice to play a new set, but actually when it starts becoming interesting is the later set, when people know what they're doing, and because of that, the metagame counteracts the card file color imbalance, and we end up with balanced formats. And we see it time and time again that if you look at the last 2 weeks of the format win rates, all the archetypes are within 1-2 percentage points. When we look at the beginning of the format, we see sometimes spreads of 10 percentage points, 8 percentage points. It's absolutely normal. So yeah, that's the sort of convoluted answer to the question of the week. I do think that color imbalance is what makes figuring out the format better. That color imbalance is not bad for the format in some range. I think that if we go outside of that range, it becomes problematic. If one color is so much better than everything or so much worse than everything that is undraftable even after the correction, that's where you run into trouble. But I think that the designers have quite a wide margin of error of how powerful and not powerful can they make the color pair or color, and still end up with a balanced metagame at the end because of the self-correcting mechanism. And I am pretty sure that this set is balanceable. Even though the white and blue is so strong, it's balanceable because I already see in the pods white is drying out very quickly. And again, because of that, I adjusted my strategy not to be reliant on those two colors, white and blue, and tried to figure out what other things you can be doing. Despite that, I'm still, at the start of the draft, I'm still preferentially in white or blue. But I'm not going to force it no matter what, because it's very apparent when those colors dry out quickly. And Carl77 in the chat says, in Ether Drift, I spammed green early week and then Mardu late weeks. And this is a very good approach. You abused the best thing to do in the set early when it's open, and then later you figured out a way of how to continue winning without having to touch the most powerful color when it was challenged and you couldn't guarantee that it's going to be open in the pot. That's what you need to be figuring out. And that's why I do like the discussion of the formats that encompass all of it. And I'm afraid that a lot of the time when people talk about their memories of the format, their memories of the format are week 1, week 2 max. And then formats are being treated unjustly sometimes because of that. All right, let's go into the actual episode, and we're going to be talking about the cards that win more or less in different archetypes. I'm doing that for almost every set, and this is not an exception from this. I'm going to show you the first example of lands. I'm going to go for Avengers Tower as our first land, alphabetically, I guess. And we have this gray dot, that's the win rate of the card in a color pair. At the bottom we have the color pairs. In case you don't know what Boros is, there is also the mana symbols for you to figure it out. And then, of course, the more red the big dot is, the more this card is winning on top of the average win rate of the color pair. So, for example, in case of Avengers Tower, win rate in Boros is around 55% of Boros decks. And then Avengers Tower's win rate in those decks is around 60%. Therefore, we have plus 5%. Avengers Tower is a great card. And as you can see, in most of the decks, it's high pluses. How to interpret this data? Well, it sort of has to be a bit active interpretation. If I have a high win rate archetype, anything that is a plus is very good indeed, because they already have a high win rate. If something makes it win even more, that's amazing. In high win rate archetypes, actually cards that are slightly below the level are still absolutely fine to put in your deck. And, not, dream cards, but dare I say even desirable despite the minus number. If we're talking about the archetypes that have a low win rate, well, I'm expecting more, because they already have a low win rate. So a card that doesn't nudge it any other direction, I'm not that happy about it. I want cards that really go +5, +3 in order to find something great in those low win rate colors. When I'm completely content with something that gives +1 in the high win rate color. And Avengers Tower in most color combinations that it's played enough to have the data representation is pretty good. It's like +3 in Azorius, and Azorius already has almost a 60% win rate, so +3 on that, that's amazing. In Selesnya, which is around 57%, it's +4. In Simic, +1.5. In Orzhov, +6. In Boros, +5. In Gruul, +3.5. That's great numbers. The only archetype where it's being played but doesn't have amazing numbers is it, where it's at +0.3. But generally, this is a card that is amazingly strong, mainly because it just asks you so little of it. It can fix your mana on some occasions. It can be very annoying if you have like no planes and you have Murdoch's Crusades in your hand and only Avengers Tower is a white source. But generally, the card advantage you get from this card is just tremendous. And I think that Avengers Tower, Villain's Hideout, and Baxter Tower, these 3 cards are sort of defining 3 cards of this set. And that I look at, depending on which of those lands your deck wants, will define what you want to be doing in the format. And there are decks that out of the 10 archetypes, each of them wants at least one of those cards most of the time. I do not know Amphithesaurus Rex. Is it lack of heroes or enough card draw that Izzet does not want Avengers Tower? My thought of Izzet is that Izzet is actually, I do think, the weakest of the color pairs in the set. I know that Rakdos has the lowest win rate most of the time, but I do think that Izzet is the one that has a low win rate, not because of poor card quality, but because the deck doesn't exist. I think that in an appropriately contested environment, Rakdos's win rate is going to be higher than Izzet's win rate. if we wait for the end of the format. Because I think that Izzet has structural problems, just artifacts, synergies don't exist. Maybe there is a different build of it that works on some evasion. But yeah, I think that partially it is lack of heroes. I think that, key creatures for Izzet, as we're going to later see, maybe are not necessarily heroes, and the density will be lower. Plus, you need the density of spells and artifacts in that deck, which will further dilute the density of targets for it. But yeah, generally Avengers Tower, anything that is hero adjacent will be happy to play it. So mainly Orzhov, Boros, which already tells me something about Orzhov and Boros, is that these archetypes are driven by white cards, where heroes are more prevalent. Gruul is happy with them. Azorius and Selesnya, very happy with them. So these are the 5 decks that Avengers Tower is the best in. Then we have the dual lands. I'm not going to focus too much on them, but I think it's important to notice that some of them are good in some color pairs. And I do think that Avengers Hangar, which is the blue-white one, its biggest improvement comes in Simic, Orzhov, and Izzet. In Simic, I think because Bant is generically a decent color combination. In Orzhov, I do not know exactly what Avengers Hangar helps in Orzhov, but clearly it's plus 1.6. In Izzet, I do think that it has something to do with splashing the red-white saga, and it gets plus 2.3. Also possibly that adding white cards to Izzet makes it actually decent, because white cards are good. However, not everywhere it's great. In Dimir it's just minus 0.3, in Selesnya it's minus 1.2. So I think that, Bant splashing white bombs is a better version than Selesnya splashing blue something. And in Azorius itself, it's plus minus 0, which is actually a great number for a land. It is something that I actively want in my deck if the win rate of the deck with it or without it is unchanged when we're talking about the land. Because 60% win rate is quite high. I'm pretty sure that the islands and plains are below 0% if you draw them. So and there you go. Then we have the second of a trifecta of important lands, Villainous Hideout. And this one has sample sizes in Orzhov, Golgari, Dimir, and Rakdos. Notice that Orzhov was also present in Avengers Tower, which means that there are 2 different builds of Orzhov that can want either the Hideout or the Avengers Tower. This one is, of course, you need to target a villain, so no surprise that Rakdos is there, and it has a tremendous improvement in Rakdos, 5 percentage points. Around 4% in Dimir and around 3% in Golgari and 2% in Orzhov. So it's great in all of those decks, and these 4 are the ones where you really want to be playing when you want to be playing Villainous Hideout. So as I said, 3 uncommon lands with card drawing abilities and different decks that want them, I think, in my opinion, is the defining feature of this format, which land you want to be having in your color pair. And again, in Orzhov, you need to be counting when you're drafting. How many villains, how many heroes I have? Am I a villain-centric Orzhov or am I a hero-centric Orzhov? And we have the last one, the Baxter building. This one, well, first of all, lets you filter mana. So for 4 in the top, you can add 4 mana of any combinations of colors, which should naturally promote multicolor decks. And also you have the 4 tap, draw a card, activate only if you control a creature with toughness 4 or greater. So the draw a card ability only works when you have a big creature. And if you would theorize about it, that means that green is more likely to splash and green is more likely to have big creatures. Therefore, green decks should be better with Baxter Tower. And indeed, that is the case. 4% plus in Selesnya, 2.5 in Simic, 3.3 in Golgari, and 2.3 in Gruul. So all the green color pairs have a solid plus on those. On top of that, it actually is plus 2.1 in Dimir. I do not know exactly what Dimir creatures have for toughness that would make Baxter building so usable, or what kind of splashes you want to make there. It's also plus 0.9 in Izzet, which is better than Avengers Tower, by the way. Around 0 in Azorius. You shouldn't be having too many of the large things. And then slight minus in Orzhov, Boros, and Rakdos. These decks probably don't want to be playing Baxter Building most of the time. So yeah, I mean, I guess that this is the picture. The Azorius, Selesnya, Orzhov, Boros, Gruul, Avengers Tower is fine. Rakdos, Dimir, Golgari, Orzhov. So literally every black archetype wants to have Villainous Tower, Villainous Hideout, and Baxter Tower, every green color pair with potential in Dimir and Izzet. Yeah. Okay, let's continue with the lands, and we have more of those gain lands. Birin Zana Plaza, fine in Orzhov. I think that there is Azorius decks in this format, not Azorius, Abzan decks in this format, plus 3.6 in Orzhov decks. So splashing some green cards into them seems like a decent idea. And plus 3% in Simic. As I again said, nice to splash white bombs into your blue-green deck. In terms of the PIM technologies, this one is plus 4% in Dimir, which again, I did not look how the Sultai decks look like in this format, but plus 4% means that there is something that is making Sultai decks playable. I guess it's up to you to figure it out. Importantly, I think that it's weird that in Golgari decks it's minus 4.1. So the different versions of Sultai, if you are playing black-green, you probably don't want to contaminate your deck with the blue splash. But if you're playing a Dimir deck, you want to splash something green. And I don't know exactly what. Potentially it is just splashing Killmonger, which is an easy splash in the blue-black decks. And that makes the most sense to me if I think about it. Because Killmonger, the green-black signpost uncommon, is a very powerful card that you can often get late. And in Golgari, you don't need to splash for it. And in Dimir, you have to. Oh, and maybe Khazar, yeah. Right, what have we here? Surveillance Room. That's the filter land that surveils at ETB. And this card has like sort of decent numbers across the board. It's played enough in all 10 color combinations. Best in Dimir, again, very likely because of Killmonger splashes, or maybe some red bombs as well will go there, like, I don't know, the Avengers Under Siege card. Also good results in Gruul and Izzet, plus 2. Orzhov also around plus 2. And around 0 in every single other combination. Sometimes minus 0.3, sometimes plus 0.4. Yeah, the black-red X creature, I don't remember its name, also very fine splash in the Dimir decks. And Surveillance Room is a very easy way to splash. Also, you know, there might be some benefits from surveilling something into your graveyard in maybe specifically in anything that has synergies to have 2 creatures in the graveyard. Okay, and we have Subterranean Cavern. This is the green-black land. Best results in any color pair where it enables casting Killmonger, which is no surprise, I guess. But Rakdos, Gruul, Dimir, Orzhov, and Simic, all of those color combinations benefit from it. And here I'm pretty sure that this is the Killmonger signature. Plus 5, plus 4.6, plus 4.4, which just shows you that how good it is to splash that Killmonger into your maybe lesser archetypes like Rakdos or Gruul and be able to harness the power of that particular card. Weirdly, it's minus 0.6 in Golgari itself, which again means it's a very fine and playable card. I wouldn't prioritize it if I was playing it as my main color pair dual land. I don't think that it's super important in this particular format. But anything where Subterranean Cavern lets you play a free copy of Killmonger in your deck looks pretty solid. Asgardian Citadel, that's the red-white. And here, I think that what we see is not the power of Asgardian Citadel, but the power of splashing the Civil War Saga. Because Izzet, Gruul, and Azorius are the colors that has the biggest impact. Also fine in Selesnya and Orzhov. In Izzet, it's like plus 4%. In Azorius, plus 2. Again, Azorius that already wins a lot. In Gruul, plus 2. And around plus 0.5 in the other two. Rakdos is where it doesn't work. I don't know. Maybe Civil War Saga is just not a great splash in this deck. You should be working on a different plane. But minus 4.2 in there, splashing. And Boros itself, it's minus 0.4. So again, those lands are good, but they're not amazing. And I think that people maybe prioritize them a bit too highly. Ooh, that's a good one, Nate W. Maybe it's people who are tempted in splashing Thanos that tanks the Rakdos win rate rather than the Civil War. And Stark Industries is sort of fine everywhere. Plus 1, plus 2, plus 4 even in Simic and Dimir. Again, in Azorius, that is very likely to splash the Saga. In other decks, not necessarily. It's mainly splashed in blue decks. Simic and Dimir especially get the high leverage. What would you splash in those decks? Well, my guess, you would splash the Vision Quest. Is it Vision Quest? The X spell that can find an artifact. That's like the easiest splash using Stark Industries. And that card is super good. So very well done if people are splashing it. It just turns any random artifact in. Yeah. Oh, Funderwung is also right with the black-green land. Maybe it's the Galactus Saga that sometimes is splashed in the black decks as well. Aim Labs, on the other hand, is the one of those lands where it doesn't have good numbers. Splashing black into any color or splashing blue into Orzhov just doesn't seem to work very well. The only color combination where Aim Labs, the Dimir, the blue-black top land is doing well is blue-black, actually. That's the one where actually some fixing might be good because you have quite a lot of double-pipped powerful cards in those color combinations, so maybe Aim Labs are needed. But not doing so well in any other combinations. Los Diablos Missile Base, and not so great in Gruul itself, that's the Gruul land. Not great in Izzet, nothing important that you can splash out of green into Izzet decks. Plus 5.5% in Rakdos. Again, Galactus Saga / Killmonger to the rescue. In green color combinations, there is also Wolverine that is a very interesting splash for those colors. So maybe Los Diablos Missile Base is linked to those. I won't be able to tell you without analyzing when do people put Los Diablos Missile Base into their non-Gruul decks. If the color pair is not on the chart, it means that there is not sufficient data for that particular card to give you the win rate. Yeah. And a lot of the time, there's not. Fist Tower, the white-black one. Here we see Golgari and Dimir as having mild positives. The rest is sort of mid. I don't think that the Fisk Tower is a good splashing tool. It also doesn't perform very well in Orzhov itself. And then we have Hell's Kitchen. It's fine in its own archetype, and Rakdos plus 2.4. So having good mana at least will solve one problem of that a Rakdos deck can have, which means consistency of casting your spell. The second problem you need to sort is casting good spells, which is much harder to do. And then Dimir is plus 4.3. So adding some red to your Dimir deck can be interesting. It can be for villain payoffs, for the Avengers Under Siege saga, for the Ruinous Crew, now I'm thinking, the Rakdos X spell. And maybe also, in some rare cases, for the Ruinous Wrecking Crew, thank you very much, for the Vision Quest as well. And here we have this in a table form, yay, where by the color you can see which cards are performing well where. And I think that the important lines here are the Avengers Tower, which is generally good everywhere and has 60% game and hand win rate on its own. Villainous Hideout, which is 57, which is more impressive even than the 60% of the Avengers Tower because it's played mainly in the weaker color pairs. And then Baxter Building, which is similar win rate as Villainous Hideout, but it does not do well in every single archetype. And Selesnya is Selesnya, Golgari, and maybe Gruul and Simic are the color pairs where it's actually at its best. Okay, in terms of rare lands, I mean, there's not much to tell. We have the rare dual lands, they're quite good. But as you can see, the minus 0.3 improvement for Gleaming Bastion. The problem with these cards is that they are very good. They are probably the best dual lands that we've had ever in Limited, apart from, Taiga, Bayou, and the original dual lands. They basically come at a 0 cost. You have enough basic lands for them to be always active. The problem with them is you need to sacrifice a high pick in order to get them. And if you sacrifice a high pick to get a land, well, you don't pick a good card for your deck. And if you don't sacrifice a high pick for a land, you don't get the land. So if you can get them late, get them. They're very cheap and easy. If you need to do high picks, well, think hard whether you want a powerful card for your deck or is there a powerful card for your deck in that pack or not. And I would err on picking in this format specifically, unless I'm already knowing that I'm splashing and I need to invest in my mana base, I would err on the side of a playable strong card. And here we have Hidden Lair, plus 3.2, because the only way that Dimir wins is having perfect mana, on top of being somewhat lucky. Gathering Place also like minus 0.3 across the board. Training Compound, maybe slightly better than Selesnya when you can splash some of the red good cards that can go into Selesnya deck. And Training Compound I've seen like late in the draft, so you can pick it sometimes quite late, because there are not many Gruul drafters. Part of it is also people picking them because they need them for the collection. Dark Fortress, the Rakdos one, fine Dimir and Rakdos as well. And we go to there are a couple of utility, I think there's only one utility land at rare, Castle Doom. It goes into really bad Izzet deck most of the time, and it has a plus 1.2% improvement rate. I think that Castle Doom is also quite playable in Rakdos, but there's not enough sample size to confirm my suspicion. But I think it weirdly works with the black mana 1/2 that when it dies, you can buy it back from your graveyard to make a slow, grindy engine of producing 3/3 villain robots. So yeah, that's the rare lands. And let's move to colorless cards. Colorless cards end up in most decks because they're colorless. It's that kind of level of insight and depth that you are here for, aren't you? But some of them are good. And Herbie, Scout Unit, is one of them. Across the board, almost everywhere, it is having a very big improvement. Like 1 to 2 percentage points improvement. That's very good for a common like this. In some colors, Golgari, specifically in Dimir, +3 and +4 even. The only color when it doesn't do well is Rakdos, and I think that mainly because it probably should be a dedicated villain deck, and Herbie is not a villain. Look at him, he's just picking flowers and there are butterflies everywhere. He's the cutest robot ever. Dimir is an interesting case. I think that Dimir, good build of a Dimir, is a sort of tempo aggro deck where you have blue flyers and your creatures are almost exclusively flyers and black interaction. And Herbie fits very well into that because a 2/1 evasive threat, because you draw a card, will let you play that kind of game more efficiently. Not to mention that maybe ramping is useful because if you can deploy a 3-mana flying threat and have a 3-mana removal at the same turn, you are not falling woefully behind because of the rate issues of your creatures have. But generally Herbie looks very good everywhere, and you should be happy playing it in your decks. Shield Helicarrier, that may be a controversial one, the 4-mana 4/5 flying that makes 2 1/1s and has a small crew cost of 6 as a vehicle. It actually has plus 0.8 in Azorius, which is surprising to some, maybe. Because Azorius is already good, and Shield Helicarrier with the 6 crew cost looks horrendous. But it does make bodies, and it is, and thank you Carl for spoilers in the chat, but it is good with the Uncommon Captain America. Uncommon Captain America makes crewing it free, basically. You just tap 2 creatures, maybe even tap the captain, and they untap, and then you can attack with them, and happy times ensue, and 4/5 is huge, and it only costs 4 mana, so there are reasons to put it in your deck. I think that if you have Captain America, it's a very good pick, because you can always get it quite late, because no one wants to be playing with it. It has minus 1.5 in Izzet, which is a no-go for me, because Izzet is already bad, and if it has minus in Izzet, it's not a good sign. Quinjet, that's the mana rock for the set, and let me put it like that. It's not as good as the mana rock was in the previous set. Turns out that not gaining a 2 life frequently is no bueno. However, there are some decks where it actually performs well. Dimir, Gruul, and Izzet are the ones that have a plus. But rest is minus across the boards. And like -4 in Azorius, -4 in Simic, -4 in Orzhov, -3 in Golgari, -2 in Selesnya. Across board is like along this more than -1 threshold, which means that I'm not happy putting that card in my decks. I think Gruul is the most mana heavy deck, and it wants to play big things, and therefore the Quinjet can be quite useful there. Also, yeah, no, I mean that's basically it. And then weird thing with Dimir, but I think that it is potentially another evasive threat for you. And as I said, with Herbie, Dimir does want to get that mana advantage to deploy the card advantage / interaction together with the threats at the same time. So maybe that's the reason. Okay, Viv Vision. I was a bit hopeful for that card when it was spoiled. 3 mana 2/2 flyer, colorless artifact, and you can pump it for 7. It becomes a 4/4, and whenever it attacks and her power is 4 or greater, you draw a card. I thought it would be easier to engineer situation when that's gonna happen. Turns out it's not the case. -2, -3 across the board, except for Orzhov when it's actually plus 1.2. I think that it has to do something with equipment and being able to equip Viv Vision, and also maybe with some lacks in terms of card draw capabilities for that color combination. Ultron Drone, similar numbers as Vision, minuses across board, not big minuses, but minuses nonetheless, except for the mirror when it's actually +2. And beats me, not an evasive threat. The 5/4 body, maybe that's exactly what you want to be there standing around and protecting you, but I'm not so sure why Ultron Drone has +2 all of a sudden in Dimir decks. Aim Synthoids, another card I was like hopeful when the spoiler was first released, and didn't deliver at all. It's like -4 in Azorius, -5 in Selesnya, -6 in Simic, and then other color combinations like -2, -1. Best at this is in Golgari at -0.7, because maybe it will let you to quickly fill in your graveyard with stuff so that you get the 2 things in the graveyard synergies, but I don't think that it's good anywhere. Then we have the Vibranium Energy Daggers. The Indestructible artifact gives a creature +2/+2. And here we have like -8.6 in Azorius, which is horrid. It doesn't mean that the card is bad, but it means more like if I'm playing an Azorius deck and I have to play Vibranium Energy Daggers, probably something went wrong with my draft already. And then you get accumulated effect of having to play the actual card. So those 2 things add up. I think where it's played on its own merit is more Orzhov and Izzet, and it has -3 in both of those. So no for me. In terms of rare and mythic colorless cards, Cosmic Cube is great. In Azorius and Selesnya, it has +8 and +7 respectively. It doesn't have sample sizes in other color combinations. That doesn't mean that it's not played there. It just means that there's not enough sample size because it's a mythic. I think card is excellent. Daggers and Demir did not have a sample size. So yeah, Cosmic Cube is definitely a card I would be putting in almost any deck that I have. Vision. The Vision, sorry. 4 mana 2/5 Flying Vigilance is a good rate for the mana that you spent. In colorless, you can play it in any deck. 7 of them have sample size large enough to measure the power of Vision, and all of them said, yes, we want Vision in our deck. It's like between plus 2.5 to and plus 6 in case of Simic. Card looks really strong. I think a slight bonus to cards that will play more non-creature spells, and Simic and Orzhov pop out especially. In Selesnya, it might be also a good way of, not dying to flyers by having Vision, so that may be some extra points from there. So play Vision, it's a good card, just pick it, fine. Iron Man Armor, +3 in Azorius, plus 1.5 in Izzet. Giving a creature +2/+1 and flying is a big boost. It will allow you to end the games. In Izzet, you get additional synergies with turning it into a construct with flying. And generally a fine card, +3, +1.5. But this kind of improvement we're going to see from commons. So it's not like a bomb or anything. Like Vision, yes, a bomb. Cosmic Cube, yes, a bomb. But Iron Man's Armor is just a solid, good card. Captain America's Shield, on the other hand, is, in my opinion, a bomb. It's +3 in Azorius, okay, +3.5 in Selesnya, +3 in Simic, and +5 in Orzhov. Also +2.3 in Izzet, despite being an artifact, but -0.7 in Demir for some reason. +8 is so stupid. Well, let's wait for the white rares, please. Then you're gonna have to reevaluate what stupid means. Another card, Super Adaptoid. It's funny how you see the impact of that card is just proportionally larger in decks that will have more villains. +5, +6 in Rakdos, Demir, and Orzhov. +1 in Selesnya. I built one yesterday. I built my deck. It had Super Adaptoid, and it had some First Strike creatures and some Death Touch creatures. And it was a very nice combination with Super Adaptoid, Death Touch, First Strike, and Vigilance in that case. Also Lifelink. So yeah. Oh, the toughness. Okay. I get it. I thought you were talking about the Cosmic Cube. +8 referred to the toughness that the Captain America's Shield is giving. -1.6 in Simic. I don't think it's a generically good card. I think that Simic also can struggle a bit with the number of legendary creatures. I think it's much easier to have a density of legendary creature in Demir, Orzhov, or in Azorius than in Simic, because you don't want to be playing the uncommon Ant-Man, for example, because a lot of the creatures that you want to be playing, like the Skrulls and the Pet Avengers, are not legendary and they don't boost the Super Adaptoid's power. So maybe that's the reason of that. But a great card, and you can imbue it with some really cool abilities. And for a 2-drop, that's all you can hope for. I had a 5/2 First Strike, Lifelink, Death Touch, Vigilance, Super Adaptoid yesterday, and it felt good, an investment for 2 mana I spent on it. Ultron, Artificial Malevolence. This is like a card that maybe is drafted as a bomb, but is at the level of like a solid common. +0.7 in Azorius, +0.8 in Izzet. Not amazing at all. And yeah, this is also reflected in the game in hand win rate here. 53%, while Cosmic Cube and Vision are around 60. So let's move to the white commons. And we start with a card that I don't think needs an introduction. Hero in Training is just good in every white deck. +4% everywhere. It's a great pick. It just makes... Sometimes I have the cards when I'm drafting that I just feel so much better when I have them in my deck, and Hero in Training is one of them. It's just like Same card for me was Crygen Relic in Edge of Eternities. I just felt like nothing bad is going to happen when I have 2-3 copies of that in my deck. And normally it doesn't, so yeah. The more surprising one maybe is Murdoch's Crusade. Also great in every white deck, around +3, +4 percentage points everywhere. It's just such a versatile removal spell, and you know that second option will target exactly the most annoying thing in the world very often. I had like one draft when I was paired against people playing the Civil War Saga 3 times, and I won all 3 of those games after they cast the Civil War Saga, because they cast it. I just played the Murdoch's Crusade, and boom, done. I get back my creatures, I move on with my life, and danger averted. And yeah, I also like when I play against someone that clearly is playing white-red, or even worse, plays red and splashes white, or plays white and splashes red for no reason whatsoever. I'm holding that card for the love of it. I will only fire it up if this is the only thing that makes me survive, because I know that the saga will kill me, so I'd rather have it as my insurance. Another one, Web Up. Also generically good everywhere, around +3, +4 percentage points. Very much like the previous ones. So Hero in Training is just like a level above them all, but Murdoch's Crusade and Web Up are closed second and third. Then we have Take Up the Shield, which is at +2 everywhere. And again, across the board, universally good in every white archetype. And Shield Spike It, which is not as uniform. So it's +3 in Orzhov, because the equipment synergies, I think, bump it slightly up. +2 in Boros, +1 in Azorius, and just at the level in Selesnya. Although, I do like it in Selesnya decks whenever I have big creatures and I'm building a board stall and then slamming one of my big beasts into their board, forcing them to lose multiple resources on one of my creatures, because that's the way I'm getting card advantage. I'm trading 2 for 1, and even potentially threatening Take Up the Shield as I attack, so they will always have to be stressed, but they also cannot ignore a 6/6 attacking them every turn for too long. While all the other creatures that are potentially also big are holding up the fort and making sure that I'm not going to die, especially easy with so many creatures in the set having reach. Burrow Backup, that card is generically good in every white deck. Not to the level of the previous ones, but you know, we're talking about 1 percentage point improvement on the win rate, so worth playing it. You can build quite a wide board, and with a couple of Burrows Backup, all of a sudden you're threatening to attack for 12. Not many decks can keep up with this level of deployment of creatures. I particularly like it in Selesnya, when ironically it has the lowest win rate, but ramping it up with the Ant-Man's Army or Undercover Scroll is a good plan. Another one that is very overperforming in terms of how it's winning is Brave Brawler, the 2-mana 2/1 lifelinker that you can power up. Solid +1, even +3 in Orzhov, because I guess putting a bunch of equipments on it make your racing capacity much stronger. Very solid card. And Raft Security Officer. This is the advantage of white. The depth of the commons in that color, just like crazy. Around +2, +1, +2 in Boros, +1 in Azorius, which is, as I said, amazing with the deck that already has such a high win rate. 0.5 in Orzhov and -0.4 in Selesnya, which still makes it a card that I'm happy to play in those decks. As I said, everything in those slightly lower win rate, everything above -1 is good in my books. And maybe a brief interlude. Why are they good? Well, your deck should probably have some underpar cards. If I'm playing a weak color pair, I want to have very few underpar cards, because I want most of my cards to be above pair, so that my 53% average win rate color pair turns into a 55-56% average deck. And that's the very good version of it. If I'm drafting Azorius that has a 60%, I want it to be roughly the average Azorius deck, which has 60% win rate, which means that I can have some cards that are above and some cards that are below and still end up in that number. So That's why I'm okay playing like Raft Security Officer in Selesnya deck. It's not going to be one of my top playables, but it's going to be a very good addition to the deck. Wakandan Drone Flock. That card is sort of like replacement level most of the time. And then boom, in Orzhov +3. I guess that flying things take equipment very well. And maybe scrying lets you find the A+B synergies easier if you have those. Helicarrier Strike, another replacement card, but this one has a +2.1 in Boros of all the things. So it looks like in Boros it's performing just ever so slightly better. Might be something to do with the not incapacity of dealing with flyers at efficient rate. So that might be one of the reasons. Then we have Crowd of True Believers. And again, this card is actually bad in Selesnya and Boros. It can be okay in Azorius at only -0.5, which I would be happy to play a copy of if that's the case. And I assume that this, not every Azorius deck wants a copy, but some of them might. And it's got actually +1% in Orzhov, which, has some sense, as Orzhov is supposed to be the color pair where attacking with one creature is a thing. And then Crowd of True Believers lets you pump up that creature. Attacking with Black Widow for 3 is very different than attacking with Black Widow for 4. You can take 5 hits from Black Widow for 4 and you're dead. And you can take 7 hits from White Widow for 3. So that speeds up your clock by 2 turns if you have a Crowd of True Believers, at the same time gaining your life, which slows the clock of opponent down, for example. And that's one of the examples. Agent of Atlas, probably for the similar reasons, is a 0% replacement level in Orzhov, but it's actually -1, -1.5 in other color combinations. Agents of Shield. Now, it's fine in Orzhov as well, 0.2 on the minus side. In Boros, it's +1.1. And it's -1, -2 in Azorius and Selesnya, so I avoid playing this card generally. But I also am never presented with a good Orzhov lane. And lastly, we have Panther Pounce. And then this one is... does Boros just need 4 toughness? I don't know, maybe. Just so that I have something to target with Murdoch's Crusade on the opposing side. So yeah, Panther Pounce, not great. -2, -4.5 in Azorius. So not happy to play this card. There are some spots where it's good. I think the best combo with it is the Iron Fist, where you can target Iron Fist with Tiger Pounce. And when Iron Fist becomes targeted, it can tap to ping something, and then you can tap it when this part resolves before the Panther Pounce resolves. And then, of course, Panther Pounce untaps it, and then you can ping something else with extra power. So, yeah, that's a neat combo. But apart from that, not much. Kree Commandos is just a bad card. And also, somehow, a card that will kill me a lot of time. So, yep, that's just my life. I get killed by bad cards. But -7 in Orzhov, -6 in Selesnya, not a rate that modern card should allow. And here we have this picture yet again. As you can see from this color scheme, and if you don't, you're listening to the podcast. And if you're listening to the podcast, well, you can always rewatch the slides or get the Patron where you get the access to the slides. But a couple of the cards, or 3 cards, actually are doing significantly better in Orzhov than in other color combinations, namely Shield Spike-It, Brave Brawler, and Wakandan Drone Flock. There's Helicarrier Strike that does pretty good in Boros, definitely better than in all the other color combinations. In terms of uncommons, we have the Political Triumph. And this card is particularly busted in Azorius and Selesnya, where it has around +4. In Orzhov, it's only +1.5, and in Boros, it's actually at a 0 net, which is still something that you want to be playing. But I think Boros might be lower in creature density and higher on combat tricks, spells that target things, density. And I think that might be the reason why Political Triumph is slightly lower there, because it just doesn't have enough creature density. but still, it is still the best white uncommon, mainly driven by Azorius and how good it is in Azorius. It's plus 3.7 improvement in Azorius, which means this is like exactly the card that you want to have. But when you look at numbers, it's going to be, well, similar to Hero of Training in terms of the improvement in Azorius decks. So this is the kind of level we're talking. That's why those white commons are just so powerful. They are at the level of the best uncommons in the set. Agent Maria Hill, the 1-mana 2/1 that has some teamwork synergies. Very good everywhere, plus 2 across board, even plus 4.3 in Orzhov, maybe because, you know, it can deploy damage very quickly. And then later you might want to be playing some spells that have teamwork in there, like Cruel, whatever. One of the few white villains in Red Guardian is the third best white uncommon, and it has plus 2 across the board, even almost to plus 3, so every white deck wants to play it. Sharon Carter, similar story, but maybe half a percentage points lower. It does have plus 3.5 in Orzhov, the attack alone archetype, so things work. But I also had success with it in Stature, for example. Okoye, Dora Milaje leader. Dora Milaje? I don't know. I should check how you pronounce it, actually. Solid everywhere, around plus 1, plus 2. So yeah, just play it in every white deck. No, don't worry too much about thinking. Night Nurse, Healer of Heroes, another 2/1 lifelinker, but this one is flash. Everywhere apart from Boros, it works fine. Again, Boros might have lower density of creatures. I particularly like it with the Land Cyclers at some stage. You know, you can cycle your 7/6 green beast at the end of turn and flash in Night Nurse and get back your beast and cast it because you got the land. That is a neat corner case for it. But generally, you will get some value out of it. And in worst case scenario, you play it out as a 2-mana 2/1 lifelinker, which is not terrible in this format, as we've seen. Patriot, the Shield Wielder. This one is more balanced and plus 3% in Orzhov. Again, if you're attacking with one creature, the risk is that that creature is going to get obliterated in combat, and Patriot makes sure that that doesn't happen. Not to mention that it improves the power. So pretty good in there. But solid anywhere else, it's just not amazing, just solid. A card that maybe people are overrating is the Super Villain Lockup. The enchantment that exiles a tapped creature and, well, sort of Oblivion Ring style. Plus 0.7 in Azorius. Dora Milaje. Okay. If you say so, I'll trust you. Yeah, first of all, there are things with Vigilance, which is very annoying. You might have your Raft Security Officer to tap them. You see, this is the cool thing, is that Super Villain Lockup is in the Raft, and the Raft Security Guard allows you to use the Super Villain Lockup on anything. Very on theme. It does have plus 0.7 in Azorius, but around -1, -1.5 even in Boros. It's not amazing in those. White Widow is another maybe disappointment for me. And I thought that, you know, the classic 4-mana 2/3 that comes with 2 counters, that's pretty a lot of stats. But it's just around mediocre at minus 0.5 across the board, except for Selesnya where it's -3. And I think that Selesnya just wants bigger creatures to be casting at the 4-drop level. And then we have Quake, Agent of Shield, 3-mana 3/3, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can tap target creature or land. It's pretty bad everywhere. -3 in Azorius, -2 in Selesnya, and like plus 0.7 in Orzhov, which may mean that cleaning up some blockers so you can attack with your super equipped creature is a thing there, but I don't know for sure if that's just a fluke of the data or whatever. Colleen Wing, Street Samurai, technically a card that was made for Boros. Whenever you cast a spell that targets at the creature you control, you put a counter on Colleen and Scry. Turns out that's not enough. Around -1.5, -2 across the board. Same with Captain Marvel Spaceborne. But this one has around minus 1.5 to minus 4 in terms of an improvement. So this card is actively detrimental, and especially you have to dedicate a high pick for picking her up. And Luke Cage, Power Man. This one goes from minus 3 to minus 7, also across the board. And Mockingbird, Ace Agent, from minus 4 to minus 7, equally uneventful. And then Invisible Woman doesn't have data for Orzhov and Boros, but it's minus 10, minus 11 in Azorius and Selesnya, which is truly horrendous. But I think that the big picture from that is those uncommons are pretty uniform. Political Triumph doesn't have good numbers in Boros, and Patriot has pretty good numbers in Orzhov. Generally, we do see that Orzhov is different from all the other white archetypes because some cards are just way better in there, which is a suggestion to me that people are still building Orzhov not in an optimal way, and because of that, the win rate of the archetype may be actually suffering, and maybe if it was built better on average, it would have a much higher win rate altogether. So maybe lessons from there is just like pay more attention to what cards are good in Boros and don't put the ones that are not so good in Boros. In terms of rares, well, yeah, we have Captain Marvel, plus 12.5 across board. No data for Boros, but I can guarantee you it's also plus 12 in there. Jennifer Walters, plus 10 in Selesnya and plus 6.5 in Azorius, despite having to splash her. So yeah, we played those cards. Avengers Assemble, plus 8, plus 10. Whenever the data is available, that card is busted. Phil Collins is between... It's actually only plus 3.5 in Orzhov, which, you know, you can imagine there's a lot of villains in there as well, so it won't be pumping everything. But like Boros, Selesnya, Azorius, like plus 7, plus 10. And then Monica Rambeau, plus 6, plus 10, plus 7.4 in Azorius, Selesnya, and Boros respectively. There's the bomb. Captain America, Wings of Freedom, the Flying First Strike one, between plus 5 and plus 7 uniformly. You don't have to think about it too much. Captain America Super Soldier, there is a bit of discrepancy there. This is the white and the one for a 3-2 first striker that has shield on it. And as long as you have shield on Captain America or other heroes you control have hexproof. This one has plus 6.1 in Azorius, which is much more than in other archetypes. It's still good in Selesnya and Orzhov, but it's like around plus 2. Origin of the Avengers, this is uncommon level card. Yeah, like a fine uncommon level card. Plus 2 in Azorius, plus 3 in Orzhov, 0.4 on the plus in Boros, and only and minus 0.8 in Selesnya. But it's not a bomb. If I was presented with a pick between this and Hero in Training, I would pick Hero in Training, and I wouldn't even think too hard about it. If I see it somewhere late, I'm happy to pick it, but it needs to be late. And I'm not talking like pick 8, but I'm talking like pick 4 or something. Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's my another question from the reader, that do I see a bump in Nick Fury's win rate if people have things like Baxter building? Because it does have a Wooburg power-up. But even without the Wooburg power-up, solid numbers in Selesnya, Orzhov, and Boros at the plus 2, plus 3, plus 1, minus 1.2 in Azorius. And just to make me think, Agent Maria Hill has plus 2.1, so I don't know how much I can grok from that. The ability of Maria Hill is important in the end. Mind Stone, if you open it in paper, I would advise you to pick it. On Arena, on the other hand, it's just like minus 0.7, minus 1.8. It's not impressive. Not much to blink in this format. Super Soldier Serum, minus 0.2 in Boros, where targeting your creatures might be useful, but minus 2, minus 3% everywhere else. It's just not good enough. And Sentry, most controversial card, I guess, in this format. Some people swear by it. Some people swear that this has won them a lot of games despite them never putting it in their deck. I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. If you are very good in gameplay and if you have tools to deal with the void that the Sentry creates, probably a good idea. But I do think that this card will suffer from the play skill disproportions. And numbers in 7th lands show that -2, -4. And that covers the white color. Yay. We can move to blue. So what do you think is the best blue common? This is my feeling, Corvus ANR, that why risk getting 1 for 2 when there are so many consistent white cards to play? Well, the reason is that one potential reason is that 4 mana 5/5 Vigilance Indestructible is a great card. But, yeah. Okay, we have answers to my question. Some people say it's going to be Shield Drone, Deployment Drone. Some people say Nay or Trickster Stratagem. And it is Trickster Stratagem by quite a lot. It's quite a lot. Between +3 and a half in Azorius and +5 everywhere else. The card is just so good. This is another card that makes me feel comfortable if I have multiple copies. I comfortably play 3. Probably wouldn't put the 4th one, but 3 quite easily. The card is just super good. But don't worry, Shield Deployment Drone is close second, between +3 and +5 as well. And we say the Nay is slightly below, but not by much, between +2.5 and +4.5 in all the blue color pairs. So those 3 cards are just the core of your any blue deck. If you don't get them, then blue was not open and it's not worth drafting it, so what are you doing? But I think number 4 is a bit surprising to some, at least. It was surprising when I saw it. Futuristic Forge is between +1 in Azorius, where it says it's weakest, but still good, and +2, +4 in so +2 in Simic and Izzet, and +4 in Dimir. So yeah, solid numbers by that card. And number 5 is Giant-Sized Flying Ant with +5 in Dimir, and this is the main kind of piece of information that convinced me that a good version of Dimir is a full of removal deck with evasive threats. And Giant-Sized Flying Ant is great because it deals with 1 creature, you can play at instant speed, and then it presents a solid clock. Yeah, if you were a believer in this card of the spoiler season, then well done on you. But +5 in Dimir is a big piece of data there for me. It's still fine in Azorius at +0.4 and in Izzet in +0.8. And Simic, it's only -1.8. So this is one of those cards when you need to know where to put it. And I think that Dimir decks that rely on evasion for the wins and black for the removal, I think that this is exactly the spot where Giant-Sized Flying Ant will excel. Bold Biochemist, my spirit animal, +3.6 in Dimir. Another card with card advantage tagged onto it that Dimir looks happy to have. And I think that this is maybe the reason why Dimir also wants Herbie and wants to have even the stupid Quinjet mana thing. You want to get to 6 mana early, not because you want to deploy chunkers, but because you want to draw more cards and make sure that you have good mixture of interaction and evasive threats to let you win the game. And then, like still good numbers in other color combinations, like at the 0 in Simic and Azorius roughly, and +1.6 in Izzet. So well done, Bold Biochemist, you did it. I really wonder if that's sort of like a inside joke of the design team, because Dave Humphries, the head designer of the set, I know that this is 2 different meanings of bold, by the way. I know this is a bold biochemist that is boldly going when no one went before. But Dave Humphries actually has a PhD in biochemistry from MIT. Was doing a postdoc there before, was plucked by Wizards to work on the set design. And he's also follically at my level, I would say. So not exactly the full head of hair. So maybe there was some kind of an inside joke with the pun. Then we have Frozen in Ice, another card that is solid all across the board. Again, blue, very much like white, has a good roster of commons. We go like Stratagem, Shield Deployment Drone, We Say DNA, Futurist Forge, Giant-Sized Ant, some places, not all the places, Bold Biochemist, and Frozen in Ice continues that trend with between 0.5 and 2.5% improvement across the board. And then we have the 7th common with the plus rating in Aerial Doombot. Again, 0.5 in Azorius. This is not strictly an Azorius card, but it's passable there. And then +1 in Simic, +2 in Dimir and Izzet, like, fine. And Aim Scientist is also like below that level, I guess. It's -0.5 in Azorius, but +0.5 in Simic, +2 in Dimir, +1 in Izzet. It's all fine there. And a bit of a disappointment, I have to say. I was quite high on that card in the early access, but later just like the teamwork 4 on it is a bit too clunky. It's still fine, but it's not like what I thought Oath of the Imperial Oath, yeah, was it? Imperial Oath level kind of a card, which I thought it might be, you know, the common card that will let controlling decks to win the game almost deterministically without having to rely on rares. And I don't think it's the problem with the card itself. I just think it's the problem with lack of control decks, and that's why this card is not performing as well as I would think it would have. Still, it has +1% in Simic, Dimir, and Izzet, and only 0.3 on the minus in Azorius, which means you're happy to put a copy in your deck. I don't think you want to put more than one copy, as you would with Imperial Oath. The power also, like, slightly underwhelming. It doesn't whelm. It whelms on the low level. It has -1 in Azorius and Simic, the good decks, and +1.4, 1.5 in Dimir and Izzet, the bad decks. So in general, it makes it into a card that I will begrudgingly play, and maybe, you know, the weaker the archetype, the more I'm happy to play it. I Am Iron Man. That one also did not land very well. -1.3 in Azorius and around 0 to 1% in Simic, Dimir, and Izzet. And we have cards now that are very mono-colored. So Hydraulic Helper, the defender mana dork for artifact, spells, and power-up. -4 in Simic, -3.5 in Azorius, but +0.5 in Dimir and +1.7 in Izzet. And in Izzet I can see this card is actually working very well because it stops you from, you know, getting attacked on this turn 3 most of the time. And then on turn 4 you can ramp up some big threat like the Iron Man, or activate your Doombot's power-up ability a bit earlier because of that. So all of that is good. But it's definitely a 1-2 archetype card. Same with Super Suit. -2, -3 in Azorius Simic, -1 in Dimir, and +1.5 in Izzet. So clearly an Izzet card. But it can be pretty good there. And then we go to the cards that are like more uniformly bad. Atlantean Cavalry is -6 in Simic, -4 in Azorius, -2 in Izzet, and -1.5 in Dimir, where it should be technically in, as it's theoretically at least the draw 2 cards archetype. And I think that this is the kind of a trap why Dimir has a low win rate, because more people build it as a draw 2 card archetypes rather than building the evasive things. Carl, of course, you can make this card good. I'm not saying every card, even the ones that have atrociously low results, can be made good. It's just that, is it easy to make them good? No. Is it worth trying to make them good? Yes, because if you can make bad cards work, especially reliably, then you are onto something that no one else is going to try in the late format, and that's how you solve it. But it's good to know that this is not a generically good card. This is a card that does require I mean, as you said, you've made this card good. Do I need to make Hero in Training good? No, I just put it in my deck and that's fine. If it gains me 2 life, good. If it doesn't, also fine. I drew a card. I don't care. So this is the difference of the cards that we're talking about. You have to make it good. It's not good. You have to make it good. Cool. But as you can see, like a lot of those blue commons quite on the positive level. I understand. So Carl says that at the threat level, good. Not many cards can be as threatening as this. But yeah, I mean, of course it is. Until it gets a stratagem and it looks funny. Or when you grow it and all of a sudden it gets into the range of Murdoch's Crusade and all the work was wasted. But yeah, and I totally see. I've had games where it was... not many filler cards can be made into threats. But you know, I mean, we didn't have too many filler cards. Like, arguably, Sentry is a filler card. It can be very, very good, and there is no discussion there. But just is the work worth it? And most of the time, it's not, and it's too hard. White Mockingbird. I've made Mockingbird into a formidable threat, but that card delivers -7, -5% across the boards, and yeah. The skill is to make whatever you got into something threatening. But I have to think about giving advice that is generic enough so that I don't stray people into some wild goose chases as well. Interesting points from that. I think that the giant-sized flying ant numbers in Dimir and Simic that are so far away from each other, that's one of the things that is maybe interesting in this data. And the fact that there are some cards that are doing fine in Izzet is also good. And I think that Dimir looks pretty good when you have a lot of blue cards. Okay, the chat already guessed what is going to be the top blue uncommon. And it is Justice. +7, +8. Across board. This card is just on the rare level. This is a rare card that has an uncommon symbol stapled to it, drafted accordingly as a rare. Splash it? Sure, no problem. Justice is just great. Turns out that Flying Manowar is a good thing. How many of the recent sets had the Manowar creature being the best blue uncommon? Pick this over Kank. Well, we'll see. We'll see if this is better than Kank, and I'm pretty sure it is. But behind it, there are still really, really good cards. They're just like Falcon would have been one of the best uncommons in the set, if not for Justice. I mean, it still is. It just doesn't look as impressive in the comparison. Falcon between +2.5 and +5, which is absolutely fine. Very, very strong card, and also an excellent splash in those green decks that have scrolls. Stature. +2 in Simic, but +3.5 in Dimir and Izzet. Again, evasive threat in Dimir. +2.6 in Azorius as a good way of finishing the game once you run out of steam a bit. I mean, this is all great. But these are the three ones that are so good. When we look at the commons, we had 4 commons that are slightly better than the uncommons. Now, obviously, Justice is just crazy. But Trickster's Stratagem is at the level of Falcon. Probably better than Falcon, actually, when you think about it. So this is the levels that we're talking about of those commons. This is like... I don't know. I don't like the discussion about Prince or Pauper, but this is such a weird set because on one hand it's so paupery, but on the other hand the princely bombs are just so outrageous, so above everything else. So I can't decide which one it is in this particular one. Then we have a big drop off though after Stature, Falcon and Justice. Falcon's wing harness is a solid equipment, but you know, it's like +0 in Izzet, which is weird because the artifact color pair, whatever. And then +1 in other color combinations, which is a fine card, but again, nothing to write home about. And then we go down the cliff and we have Wiccan, which at best is a 0 in Dimir, and at worst is -2.5 in Simic, and then all the others are in between. Then we have Shuri, Wakandan Inventor, -5.6 in Simic. You clearly don't want it there. minus 2.6 in Azorius, but plus 2 in Izzet, so it actually does work in the artifact archetype, and 0 in Dimir. I'm thinking like specifically, I think Shuri in the Dimir deck with Modok is a nice combo. When you can copy Modok, and clearly it's a solid card for the archetype that it should be in. So is it the artifacts ones? Then we have Atuma, Atlantean Warlord. This is like sort of a package with the 3/2 Merfolk. It pumps it, and whenever it attacks, you draw a card which grows it as well. It's I think a good curve out if you can do it, like turn 3 one of them and turn 4 the other one. But yeah, the numbers are not very amazing on it. It does have plus 0.2 in Dimir, but minus 1.3 in Izzet, which is disqualifying because Izzet was already poor. Minus 3 in Azorius, minus 0.8 in Simic, so nothing super impressive. Iron Lad, we got again a massive split here. Minus 7 in Simic and plus 1.7 in Izzet, and then 0.1 in Dimir, where I guess that there will be some Dimir decks that want to have Iron Lad, and there are some Dimir decks that would want to touch it with a 6-foot pole. Kid Loki, another polarizing card, minus 4 in Azorius, plus 1.5 in Dimir. It turns out that despite probably you shouldn't be focusing on the draw 2, but Kid Loki is cheap enough as a threat that it can be quite decent. If you can grow it to a 3/3, 1 mana for a 3/3 is a solid thing. And if you have any instant ways of putting counters, could be nice to give Hexproof to something. Echo, minus 4, minus 5 in Azorius and Simic, but plus 1 in the mirror, which gives me hope. Another card that, like, a lot of people say that this is amazing, but numbers don't seem to confirm it, so it might be very much linked to the play skill and your ability to utilize it at the right moment. There are some really good things that you can weirdly copy, like, I don't know, the trigger from the Red Guardian, for example, or obviously Web Up will work. Night Nurse, another one. Mr. Fantastic. All I can say about this card is that it's better than the female version in white, but it's still minus 5 to minus 2.5, so nothing amazing. Super Intelligence, minus 6 to minus 1.5, not so super after all. I think Speedball is probably the best card to put something on. Well, it has to be from a creature source. Okay, yeah, but it does work with the Red Guardian then. But yeah, apart from that, not anything that I want to be playing in my deck. Oh yeah, and again, I mean, yes, Echo will have amazing spots, but Hazel in the chat mentions Echo, Mr. Fantastic, and Okoye. Mixing up a mediocre card, a good card, and a bad card into something that works well. But you can't guarantee those kind of outcomes all the time, and therefore it is a risky strategy. Pimp Particles, minus 1 in Izzet, which is still bad because Izzet is bad. Minus 6 in Azorius. It's a great equalizer. The archetypes do exactly the same when they have Pimp Particles in them, but not in a good way. What you want to have as a great equalizer is something that makes Izzet win on the level of Azorius, but those cards don't happen. Thirst for Knowledge, not good anymore. That card is outlived its design space. Minus 6 in Azorius, best in the mirror at minus 1.4. Rewrite History, minus 11 in Azorius, minus 5.5 in Dimir. There's just not enough instant and sorceries in this set, and that's why it doesn't work. Ta-da! And also, not to mention, that even if you play enough instant and sorceries, where do you have the creatures to tap? That might become a problem. and because of those many factors, it just doesn't work. Is that the timeline authority on the picture in the right history? It's Kang, yeah? Okay, that's Kang. So yeah, I mean, the story of blue uncommons is that there are 3 amazing ones, 1 pretty good one, and the rest of them are at best controversial and do much better in one color combination than the other. Okay, in terms of rares, Leader, super genius. Fun fact, my first 2 games of the format, game 1 I milled myself out with Leader, game 2 my opponent cast Leader and then doubled all the creatures that they controlled, which I don't know if you know, but if you have 2 leaders, you draw 3 cards for each connive, and you connive twice before every combat. That game did not end well for my opponent. They milled themselves out. So that's my first 2 experiences of this format. Milling yourself with leader, but once it was me, once it was the opponent. Still, plus 14.6 in the mirror, plus 10 in Azorius. The card is just busted. You just play it every time. Number 2 in the blue rares, Wondrous Wasp. I think that is a bit surprising. This card is looking very unassuming. But it's such a good card. Like, imagine you cast it, you tap their leader, and yeah, okay, tapping doesn't do anything because it's just for 1 turn, but then it loses the ability until they deal with Wondrous Wasp. And there are many ways of making that Wasp hard to kill, and also some decks don't have enough removal to deal with the Wasp. So yeah, between 5.5 in Izzet and plus 8.2 in Dimir, which is, you know, not the level of 15 in Leader, but a solid level nonetheless. Then we have Kang the Conqueror, that someone picked Justice over it, and turns out the numbers suggest that it's a good idea, because Kang the Conqueror has plus 6 maximum, but it's mainly plus 3, plus 4. Still, that's a great card, but not plus 7 like Justice had, so there we go. Then we have Bruce Banner, and I think that mainly, like, weirdly, there's not enough data in Gruul, which means that people play it more for the blue part than for the Gruul part. But in the mirror, it's plus 11, which is better than Kang, better than Wasp, not better than Leader, but pretty strong. That's how important this card advantage is in the mirror. And plus 6 in Azorius and plus 4 in Simic. Izzet doesn't have a data. Tony Stark, great in Izzet, plus 8.4. Which, when you think about it, if you first pick Tony Stark and you draft a solid Izzet deck, your Izzet deck is at the level of good Azorius decks. And this is the thing that I don't want you to forget, is that, yeah, if I draft an Izzet deck for the commons that are there, I'm probably going to win that draft. But if I start with Tony Stark, I have good incentive to stay in Izzet. This is a good reason to be in it. Plus 8.4, that's absolutely fine. You have over 60% win rate when you draw Tony Stark. So now the question is, can you get the other cards to support it sufficiently? And it's also plus 3 in Azorius, so not bad there. Easy splash as well. Secret Invasion is another strong card. Plus 6 in Izzet, plus 3 in other ones, maybe plus 5 in Dimir. What I like to do is pair it with some tokens. Not only because they are disposable, but also like there is a good chunk of removal that doesn't deal with tokens. Like Justice won't bounce a token. So if I put my Secret Invasion on a token that is becoming a copy of the creature that is exiled, at least I'm Justice proof. Then we have the Shield Flying card, similar story here, plus 5% in Izzet, plus 3 in everything else. That's a very good card. You can always find something to blink or save, so very good utility. And the 3/3 flyer, just crew 1, is absolutely fine. Loki, God of Mischief. Here we have a bit more mixed numbers. It's -1 in Simic, plus 3.5 in Azorius, and I think that a lot of it has to do with the shield spike it. And then plus 3 in Izzet and plus 1 in Dimir. It's a good card, but it's not a universally good card. Keep that in mind. it does need some things to go along with it, because otherwise it's just a vanilla 2-1. You don't want that. And only triggers on abilities. So yeah, think about that. Namor the Submariner is plus 1.1 in Dimir, and at the 0 in Azorius, and there's no data for anything else, which makes me think it's not great. Can be made great, not enough, I think. Non-creature spells with multiple blue mana symbols to make it properly threatening. But in Dimir, this evasion plan that I envision for it might be just enough to push it through. Miss Marvel Kamala Khan, -1, -2 in most colors. It's plus 0.4 in Is It. Nothing to write home about there. And then we go with like Ironheart, -5 in Azorius, but minus 0.4 only in Is It. Multiversal Incursion, we only have data for Azorius, but it's -7. It's too expensive, I guess, to be properly good. And that covers the blue rares and mythics. And the story here is that apart from Loki and maybe Namor, Namor, the Brazilian? No, not anyone. Most of them are just universally good or universally bad. So there's not much subtlety in there, but it's always Namor Santos Jr. Yeah, I've only ever seen it win, but it probably rots in a hand a lot. That's what I would expect from the Wung. So yeah, that is the story of the Blue Rares and Mythics. Not much subtlety there, apart from that Loki and maybe Namor. Namor. Damn it, I have to give up on the pronunciations here. Okay, let's move to the black commons. And here we have one clear winner. Cruel Alliance is by far the best black common, and it has between 5 and 6% improvement, which means that this is the key black card that you need to draft. And I think every time when I'm in black, I just Cruel Alliance or an Atrocious Bomb, which also are present in this color, are the reasons for that. But I really want to have at least 2 Cruel Alliance if I go to draft black, because of the, weaknesses that the color has. Hour of Defeat is big notch below Cruel Alliance. It's still +2 to +3, which makes it a fine card, but it's not comparable how good this card is. Like, first of all, destroying, there are ways of giving things indestructible. Exiling just works so much better. It deals with that. And the third good card in black, and maybe the one that is still flying under the radar, I know that I have an issue convincing the pros that this card is good, is Hydra Infiltration. This one has between 1.5 and 3 percentage points improvement. At its best in Orzhov, where you would expect it to be best because you want to be attacking with one creature. We showed that the white cards that profited from attacking alone were doing well there as well. Widow's Bite is also fine. Dimir has it at +3.6. I think mainly because not good 2-drops means that Widow's Bite is probably one of the better 2-drops that it has, and maybe we say Dine at the same time. But it's also like fine in Rakdos and Orzhov and Golgari, around 1.5 improvement. But it's all in the red, so these are universally good cards. Then we move to cards that are not universally amazing, but are quite important when they are good. For example, so we're talking about Red Room Recruit, the 2-drop that connives. In Dimir and Rakdos, it's +2. In Orzhov, it's -0.3, and in Golgari, it's +0.6. So clearly better in Dimir and Rakdos because maybe villain density is important, but also this is a very good defensive 2-drop. While Stolen Stark Tech is exceptionally good in Orzhov at +2.4. It's one of the better cards for that equipment archetype. But in Golgari, for example, -3. In Dimir, it's +0.6. In Rakdos, it's around 0. So clearly an Orzhov card that can be played in Dimir decks and Rakdos decks, but you are not super happy to play them there. And definitely should not be played in Golgari. And then we have Ninja of the Hand, which is quite the opposite. In Orzhov, it's minus 1.2. But in Golgari, Dimir, and Rakdos, it's +1, +2.3, and +2.0. So decent card there, but not in Orzhov. Roxanne Brutes is roughly on the 0 level everywhere. Minus 1.5 in Orzhov, but like 0.2 minus in Golgari, 0.4 plus in Dimir, and minus 0.8 in Rakdos. Nothing amazing, fine to play. Kingpins Enforcers, minus 1 in Orzhov, plus 1.2 in Golgari, and around 0 in Dimir. So Golgari does seem to want this card. Having a sacrifice outlet to fill your graveyard when you need it. Some lifelink to survive to the late game when you can deploy bigger threats. All those kind of things seem to be working fine there. Unliving Legionnaire, Golgari and Orzhov -2, and Dimir and Rakdos around 0, where I guess that the villain bonus is fine. Visions of Villainy, another card that some people swear by, but numbers don't seem to confirm it. -2.3 in Orzhov, but around 0-ish everywhere else. But not an amazing card by any stretch of imagination, just a fine card. And a card that many people were hyping before the format was released, Hydra Troopers, -4 in Orzhov. Just very bad there. And then around 0 in Golgari and Dimir and Rakdos, which is, again, not the level I want to be on if I'm playing those weaker archetypes. Like, Golgari is still fine at 56%, but Rakdos is already at 53, so improvement of 0.2 is not something that impresses me much. Agents of Hydra, another card that, maybe in a different set would be great, but here it's just like -4 in Orzhov, -2 in Golgari, and, almost -1 in all the other ones. So nothing special. Project Deathlock Soldier. It does have -0.2 in Dimir, which means maybe there are some kind of ways of looping it. I think that it would be significantly better if it was a villain, but it's not. So the Tau test is exactly that. You can loop it with some connive reproducible triggers, and maybe that's why Dimir wants that mana, because it's so mana hungry. If you want to spin Project Deathlock Soldier as a connive mechanism, you really need a lot of mana to do so. And Decoy Ploy, -6.6 in Rakdos, because if you don't have any heroes, it's going to be very bad, and you won't have any heroes in Rakdos most of the time. But also -4 in Dimir and Orzhov, and -1 in Golgari, I think, where it's at its best. But generally, we have the 4 universally good commons. Stolen Stark-Tech that is really, really good in Orzhov decks, and Ninja of the Hand, which is pretty strong in villain decks in blue-black and black-red. Uncommons, and we have one good outlier in Dark Deed, between 4 and 7 improvement. Very good. It's similar level as Cruel Alliance in terms of how powerful it is. Madame Mask is also a very, very solid uncommon. This is what Hydra Troopers would want to be, giving you some card selection while making 2 reasonably sized bodies. Between +3 for Orzhov and +5 for Dimir. So yeah, again, red all across the board. And Claw is another one that is red across the board, even though in Orzhov it's just 0.2 on the plus. But it's +4 in Rakdos and +4 in Dimir. So in black cards, we do see the clear split that some cards are just good Dimir and Rakdos and not as good anywhere else. And of course, the power level of the card will determine just how big those differences are. Because I think that this villain keyword, and especially when there's a synergy with villains, it does tell you something. And we're going to see it in a couple of cards later that have even bigger split in power level between Rakdos and all the other color combinations. Talking about which, Baron Strucker is +6 in Rakdos, which is, in my head, almost a prerequisite of playing Rakdos decks in this format is to have at least a copy of Baron Strucker and potentially, a bomb that synergizes with villains and the villain's hideout land. But it's only like it's +3 in the Golgari and Dimir, which is also great, but it's only -4 in Orzhov. So clearly not something that you want to be playing in your Orzhov decks. I mean, think about it in Rakdos, like curving out Madame Musk and then into Baron Strucker. And you can choose which one of the two creatures you will connive at the same time. Then we have Whiplash. Big split here. This one is just very bad in Golgari, -5, but actually +3 in Orzhov because of the equipment synergies, +3 in Rakdos, and +2.5 in Dimir for the villain synergies. So this one, again, just bad in one of the archetypes, which is weird. Normally we see cards that are just good in one of the archetypes. Here we see quite a lot of cards that are just good in 3. And Ronin as well, +2.7 in Orzhov. Maybe underestimated card in specifically in Orzhov, because the fact that for 2 life you can flash in Stark tech, it's a big thing for that. Because opponents often don't see it, and not to mention that later you can convert that stolen Stark tech into a removal spell, and a good one, because you basically sack turn tapping your Ronin into a Dark Deed, and Dark Deed is a +5, +7 percentage point card in this set. So yeah, but -2 in Rakdos. Turned out the hero line was not so great. And then 0 in Dimir, and there's no data in Golgari. Then we have Yellow Jacket, and here we see the same split. Good in Dimir and Rakdos, +2, +4. And bad in Orzhov and Golgari, -0.2, -2. Which means Orzhov it's playable. I guess that having lifelink sometimes on the creature that you can boost is not terrible. Then he turns into Modok. Swordsman, interestingly, has pluses across board except for Golgari when there is no data. It's modest, +1.5, but it's worth noticing that it has decent numbers. Again, in Orzhov it will just be there on the equipment synergies, and in Dimir and Rakdos it is a villain while also being a hero. Then we have Masters of Evil, the card that kills me every time, but again, I don't see how often it rots in hand and does nothing. It does have +1.3 in Rakdos, but it does have -2.7 in Orzhov and -1 in Golgari, and it's roughly 0 in Dimir. So not an amazing card, but in Rakdos it will have its spots. Then we have Crossbones, Malicious Mercenary. That's the 4-mana 3/3 Death Toucher that grows whenever you cast a villain. And as you can expect, this is another card when you have this Orzhov Golgari split, where it's -5, -2 in those, but 0 to +1 in Dimir and Rakdos. Not great. As I said, +1 is not as impressive in Rakdos as it would be in Azorius, but definitely playable. But it enforces this kind of split between Dimir and Rakdos even more strongly. Grim Reaper, Lethal Legionnaire. That's the 3/4 for 4 mana that whenever it actually may pay 4 mana, and if you do, return creature from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking with the finality counter on it. Green will have chonkers that will be able to be gotten with it, and that's why I think it's +0.3 in there. In Orzhov, it's actually -5. Yeah, Carl, I think that looting away the 7/6 Land Cycler and then Grim Reaper attacking and bringing a 7/6, that's a pretty strong playing pattern. In Dimir, it's -1, in Rakdos, it's -2. So it's almost exclusively Golgari card, because you will have big things there that will go to the graveyard. Moonstone Harsh Mistress. This one is just having plus numbers in Rakdos, and also by a whisker as well, plus 0.7, and it's around -5, -3, -5 in Golgari even, and that's the 2/4 that whenever you discard a card, you can recast it at the end until the end of your next turn. I think that the struggle with that card is that too finicky. It requires you too much of A to plus B synergies, and if it becomes a problem, it has an unfortunate 4 toughness. So yeah, that's why it doesn't win. And I think that when people draft it, they want to go maybe too much of that kind of synergy. Too evil to stay dead as between -7 in Orzhov, -3 in Golgari, and around -1.5 in Dimir and Rakdos. Pretty bad. And Arnim Zola, Biofanatic, -8.5 in Orzhov, okay. -3.6 in Golgari, and then -2 in Dimir and Rakdos. This card just fails on the power level. You can see from the numbers that it's in the same category as all those cards that are better in Dimir and Rakdos. It's just that it's not good enough. And lastly, we have Robot Domination, another Imperial Oath wannabe, at an impressive -7, -6, -5 across the board. Just what a bad card it is. So we ended up with 2 really good uncommons in black, some that are specifically good in Orzhov, and some that are specifically not good in Orzhov. And then, yeah, again, Whiplash, not bad also in other combinations, but not in Golgari. And weirdly, couple of cards that show promise in those color combinations. So probably worth studying this table and thinking about what it means for your drafting. And we go to black rares and mythics, starting with Dr. Doom. Well, at least the headliner villain did not disappoint. At its worst in Dimir, at only plus 10 percentage points improvement. But in Golgari, it goes up to plus 16. So, yeah, not terrible at all. And, you know, plus 14 in Rakdos, plus 12. If you first pick Dr. Doom, your Rakdos deck is going to be way above the level of an average Azorius deck. So, there is no reason not to do it. And we have Electra, which is also really strong. But of course, nothing similar to Dr. Doom. However, this is a rare, you're going to see it more often. Plus 6 in Golgari is where it's at its worst. Plus 12 in Dimir is where it's at its best. And then there is plus 8.59 in Orzhov and Rakdos. Really strong card, better than any uncommon. And another card that makes Rakdos decks play at the level that you want them to play. And we have MODOK. This one as another one between plus 9 and plus 12. So yeah, you always play MODOK. These 3 cards you always play. Another card that you should always play, but you need to know that it requires a certain amount of building around, is Super Skrull. This card probably is better than the numbers suggest, but because it's so hard to play, I'm pretty sure it's going to be in, you know, those 8 swamp decks a lot of the time, and that will tank its win rate a bit. But it's around plus 4 to plus 8 across the board. Black Widow Super Spy. That's a very solid 2-drop between plus 4 and plus 6. So another thing that you will always play. That's the Mythic Black Widow. And that's the end of good news for the rares and mythics, really. Ragabad. I think that Ragabad is nobilitating for Black Widow because it's sort of comparing it to Ragavan. I just thought that this is like a sort of worse Caustic Bronco. That was my kind of analysis of this card. Doom Reign Supreme, the plan. It actually has plus 2.7 in Rakdos, which is fine. But it's pretty bad. Pretty bad everywhere else. In Orzhov especially, it's minus 5.4. In Golgari, minus 2.5. In Dimir, minus 1.5. So it is a Rakdos card. Don't let the lack of red mana symbols in it fool you. Baron Helmut Zemo. Now this is a very interesting card because the black, black, black and the mana value is something you have to respect. However, it has minus 1.1 in Demir and minus 3 in Rakdos, so not good enough. I still think that it's probably played in many decks that it shouldn't be played. You really need to be close to mono black to play it. And then maybe it is actually good because not only, if you play it in mono black, not only it's easy to cast, but also it's easy to trigger the Knife ability regularly. Thunderbolt's Conspiracy, between -2 and -5, no thank you. Construct a Cosmic Cube, you would think that this will be easy to trigger, but even in the mirror that should be drawing the second card. Frequently it's -4, and in Rakdos it's -7, so pretty bad numbers on it altogether. We have 5 great black rares and mythics. Unfortunately, 3 of the things are mythic, but we have the Electra and Super Skrull as good rares. And then a Void with Doomrain Supreme being okay-ish in black and red decks. So, red. And we have universally good common in red in this Lightning Strike. But the numbers are not impressive at all. Plus 1.5 to plus 3 is good, yeah? Don't get me wrong, it's good. But we're talking about colors that are already bad. Is it in Rakdos when it gets plus 3? So that's not as impressive as having, plus 4 in Azorius by the hero in training. Hulk Smash is level below Lightning Strike, but not far. As you can see, those numbers are really, really similar. It doesn't have the 3 percentage point improvement in Izzet and Rakdos, mainly because the creatures there are not large enough. But still around 1.5 across the board on the plus. And then we move into cards that are not universally good. Crimson Operative, still plus 2 in Rakdos, plus 1.5 in Izzet. Again, not as impressive as these are bad already, but minus 0.9 in Boros and plus 0.7 in Gruul. Red is the problem color, and there is no talking out of it, really. And it's across the board. We really have only Lightning Strike and Hulk Smash as those good commons. Then we have like Kree Sentinel, which is like around 0, plus 1 in Rakdos, minus 1.7 in Boros, but nothing important, nothing impressive in there. Hawkeye's bow, which has plus 2% in Rakdos, but around 0 to minus 1.5 in Gruul. Hydra Assault Robot, which is minus 3 in Boros, unsurprisingly, and it's okay-ish, plus 1.2, plus 0.8 in Rakdos. Again, in poor color combinations, so this is not as important as elsewhere. And Blazing Crescendo, by the way, plus 1 in Gruul. Interesting. And that's something that I didn't expect. It is pretty bad everywhere else. It's minus 3 in Izzet and Rakdos and minus 1.5 in Boros. And then we have like all those bad cards like Kunlun Warrior. Minus 2, minus 3 even. Best in Rakdos, which is weird because it's not even a villain, but it just tells you how much this deck wants a good 2-drop. But even in Rakdos it's like minus 0.1. Repulsor Blast. Between minus 1 and minus 2, across board, everywhere it's minus. Stark Industries Executive. This one is actually, I've heard, being called Ragavan. Ironically, nonetheless, but it does have plus 0.2 in Izzet, which would be great if Izzet was one of the better cards in the better color combinations in the set, but it's not. And it's minus 5.6 in Boros, for example, minus 3 in Gruul, minus 2 in Rakdos, so pretty bad everywhere else. Machinesmith Automaton. Minus 8 in Rakdos, minus 1 in Izzet, and no data in Gruul and Boros, people know. Volcanic Villain. What were they thinking designing this card? 3 mana, 3 to haste. For 6 mana, it can be 5 for haste. -5 in Boros and Gruul, -2 in Rakdos. No data in Izzet. Vision of Love. And the Vision of Love is -5 in Boros, -5 in Gruul, and -3 in Izzet and Rakdos. Really not the kind of love you want to envision. Super Speed. No one even plays it, but in Boros, where technically it should be according to the prescribed things you should be doing in the archetype, it's still -3 there. And I'm pretty sure it's even more horrendous elsewhere, judging by the fact that it's here. Hire a crew. Make a villain at instant speed and you get half a trumpet blast as a reward. -6. Lovely times. So yeah, as you can see, the story of red commons is that you have Lightning Strike and Hulk Smash, and then a lot of nothing with, Crimson Operatives showing some hope, and Hawkeye's bow being fine in Rakdos. But it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And look at those game in hand win rates here, like 55% for Lightning Strike. This is not what you would expect from the top common, when there are probably 3 white commons that are above 60% if we go back. Now, I'm not going to scroll so much because it's 200 slides, but I'm pretty sure that there's there and about 60% win rate commons in white. Okay, uncommons. Maybe here we have something better. Well, Jessica Jones is definitely a highlight in red. It's between 3 and 5% in red everywhere. At best in Izzet and Rakdos at +5. But also very good in Boros and Gruul. This card is actually splashable in some decks. If I have like a Simic deck with Skrulls, I'm going to be happy to put Jessica Jones. It's a hero, so if you have Avengers Towers, that splash is even so easier. And yeah, it did beautiful things for me when I was playing it. Photon Blast Barrage, so Rolling Thunder that cannot go face, but has some mini combos in the certain decks. Between +2 and +4, also very, very solid card. At its best in Gruul, and I think that this has something to do with the fact that the combos I mentioned, namely Red Hulk and the uncommon Hawkeye, these cards are mostly conducive to what Gruul wants to be doing, which means ramping into big things. Red Hulk is a big thing. And because they are ramping into big things, also the X can be larger for the Photon Blast Barrage. So even if you don't have the combo, you can still do some proper damage with this X spell. Speedy Young Avenger. This has actually surprised me. I never had this card on my radar. I mean, I had it before the set was released. I do like my 2/2 haste creatures. But then I just didn't think of it and just never saw it on board. I never drafted it. But it does have like +1.7, +1 in Izzet and Rakdos. So there is something there. Bad in Gruul and not so great in Boros with -3 and -1. But those plus numbers at least make me think maybe it's playable. Misty Knight. This is a card I definitely thought was going to be much better. +0.5 in Izzet, but small minuses everywhere else. So nothing to write home about. The only 3/1 in the set is not great. Then we have the Red Hulk. Yeah, this is what I was talking about with the Photon Blast Barrage. Red Hulk has +1.5 in Gruul, which is fine, but also not much elsewhere. It has 0.6 in Rakdos and then small minuses everywhere else, which in my head makes it almost an exclusively Gruul card. Lofi's Son. That's the red one that can copy spells. It's +0.6 in Izzet and around 0 to -1.5 in other things. Human Torch, Johnny Storm. It actually has a 0 in Boros, which is surprising. And maybe if you're drafting Boros, you can know about that and get it late from the packs when there's nothing else. It's actually fine to play in that deck. But -4 in Gruul, you definitely don't want it there. And -1 in Izzet, which again, you don't want it there because Izzet is already poor enough that you want to put a card that decreases the win rate. Traktos, absolute shocker for me, but -3 in Rakdos. And then +1 in Izzet and Gruul, and then minus 0.3 in Boros. The thing that this card suffers from, I think, is double red cost means that you need to play a lot of red in the deck, and the upside of that is not as big as for example, the Photon Barrage or Red Hulk. So you're getting like a solid card at the cost of having to play a lot of red, which is not what you want to be doing in this format. Then we have the Hawkeye Young Avenger. Again, I was also hoping for this kind of card to be good, but it's just too easy to disrupt the A plus B synergies, unfortunately. It will sometimes do amazing things, but a lot of times it won't do anything. Plus 0.5 in Izzet, but then minus 2.5 in Boros, minus 1.5 in Gruul, and minus 0.8 in Rakdos. Evil Stroll. It actually does have plus 0.4 in Rakdos, and I'm pretty sure horrendous numbers elsewhere, but there's not enough data. And Wonder Man Hollywood Hero between minus 2 and minus 4. Nope. Team Tactics between the minus 3 and minus 7. Definitely no. Iron Fist Living Weapon between minus 4 and minus 5. Again, I did fun things with it, but still a no. I think the body is just, it should have been a 3-3 in order to be something. If I'm going to invest into a combo fragile card like Iron Fist, I want to have something up front. I don't need to work too hard on it. And this one requires way too much work. Compared to something like Ronin that can give you 2 mana very easily. But if that fails, it's still a 3 mana 3-3, which is fine as a baseline. And Iron Fist doesn't even have that. Death to Our Enemies. Also a card that wrecked me a couple of times, but also a couple of times did absolutely nothing. And that's the main problem with it. The non-creature spells are not that many, and that's why it gets from minus 4 to minus 8.5. Horrid numbers. So again, it had 2 good commons and it has 2 good uncommons. That's the weakness of red. There's gonna be some better rares and mythics. And look, don't get me wrong. They did the right thing. Thor, God of Thunder is a strong card. Plus 10 in Boros and Izzet, where we have enough data for it. Great. But anything apart from that, maybe? Well, we do have Mjolnir, another mythic. So 2 mythics so far good. Mjolnir only has plus 4.3, plus 4.5. To give you an example, Hero in Training, which is in stronger archetypes that have a higher baseline, has the same numbers as Mjolnir. So yeah, that's the problem that red will have. And we still have Hawkeye Master Marksman, which has really impressive numbers as well. The plus 7, plus 8, plus 5, plus 6, that kind of number level. It's probably one of the better 2-drops in the set altogether. It's a shame that they don't have too much accompaniment. Then we have Avengers Disassembled, and very much in flavor, best in Rakdos, plus 6. But elsewhere the numbers are not so great. Again, because probably that's other colors. You don't need to be too heavy on red, and you would have to be in order to play Avengers Disassembled. Plus 2 in Gruul, plus half in Izzet, plus minus 0.5 in Boros. I played Avengers Disassembled once, and I played it with the uncommon Hawkeye, and it's a very neat combo because it deals 5 to your opponent's creatures, but only 3 to your creatures, that makes the Hawkeye survive it. So that was a fun combo. And then we have Fing Fang Foom. It has a very high meme potential, but unfortunately, win rate not so great. It looks like a good card, honestly. Like, if you can have this and then, I don't know, point the lightning strike at the shield deployment drone and kill something else in process and make it a 5/7. It should be good, but somehow it just doesn't work. Plus 1.5, I mean, it's not a tragic card. Plus 1.5, 1, plus 1 in most colors, and in Boros it's minus 0.6. But it's not an impressive number for, a dragon. Quicksilver, minus 4 in Boros, where the numbers are represented sufficiently enough. So no. And Scarlet Witch has, 49% win rate, which means that we'll have even lower numbers, but it just didn't have sample size for anything. So slightly better news at rare, but nothing impressive there. Not enough of that, at least. So now we can move to green, and I think that green is the color you should pay the most attention to in the later part of the format. We know what is good in white and we know what is good in blue, but I think green is the sort of key to get or prolong your win rate to the late format. If you are still interested in winning, I think that being attentive to the green decks is going to be quite key. And I think the most important common in green is Undercover Scroll, and the data agrees with me there. It's got between 3 and 4.5% win rate, best in Golgari, but it's pretty good everywhere else. I think this is the way of, you draft a couple of those, I don't know, you open a white bomb and then white is not open. Undercover Scroll is the thing that lets you do that. Plus there is a good amount of solid 4-drops, which of course Skrull will naturally let you play ahead of curve. So those two things are really good, and it becomes a 3-3 in the game naturally, and that's also not a bad thing. The other universally good common in green is Go Nuts. It's +2 across the board everywhere, so just a very good green common. And card that might be a bit underappreciated is Rapid Rescue. It has +4.2 in Simic, making it the best green common in that particular color combination. But +0.5, +2 in Golgari. It's pretty solid everywhere. It gives you that nice life cushion, and it will most of the time draw your card. With 34 permanent spells in your deck, you are roughly 98.5% to hit. So, and 75% you will even have selection, which is good enough. And there will be moments when you will hit 2 spells and you're going to be cursing the day that you put this card in your deck. Still, on aggregate, it's a winning card, so keep that in mind. My personal favorite for the format, Pet Avengers. I really love playing with that card. I pick it quite highly, and it does good things to me. Particularly the reach is important, I think. It lets you not to die to flyers, which is a good feeling to have. And you will often be able to activate the power up on that. It's got like +1, +1.5 across the board as well. Some other people, Samp, love the Ant-Man's army, and I do agree. It's just that there is not as good curve out from 3 to 5 as there is from 2 to 4, and that's why I do prefer Undercover Skrull, and I'm pretty sure that so does Samp. But that card should not be underestimated. In Simic, it got +2.5, in Golgari +1.6, and then around 0 in the other two. It's a very solid card. The free power lets it trade decently while generating some advantage. And, if you draw it late in the game, you just make a food, and it's a sort of gain 3 life later in the game kind of situation. Gorilla is having a couple of nice things about it. It's sort of there and about on the 0 level, maybe with 1.2 on the plus in Golgari. It does deal with a lot of very annoying cards, and it's a hero, so it actually works quite well with the Avengers Tower as well. But yeah, it's like nothing special, but it's a good 2-drop. Serpent Specialist, again, a card around 0, maybe 1.6 on the plus in Golgari. It does have small synergies with the multicolor rare with Death Touch as well. And it also works with bite spells very well, and can be an annoying attacker that you don't want to be blocking, even if it's just a 1/1 attacking, but you can activate it. You won't chuck a 2-drop in front of it. You need to put the proper creatures in front of it. Someone says, I killed 2 Civil Wars with Gorilla so far. Yeah, I had my Civil War killed by Gorilla, and I thought, well, at least my web up is going to be good, until my opponent on the same turn as they sacrificed it also played the Night Nurse and rebought it and replayed it, and it was a nightmare of a game for me to play. Wakandan Royal Guard is probably like below par. It's still like a playable thing. You will put it in your deck, but it's like around 0. In Golgari, it's minus 1.5. But nothing special here, just fine. And I think that this is the biggest weakness of green in general, is the common roster is not particularly deep compared to blue and green, and that's why it's losing out to those colors. Savage Land Dinosaur is similar as the Wakandan Royal Guard at around 0, minus 1.6 in Selesnya, because I think Selesnya has better things to do with even that mana. Giant Growth, just below par. It's just so close to being like up and there, but I think that we need to power creep Giant Growth. That's put Scry 1 on it or something. It has like minus 1.5 across board, maybe 0.8 in Golgari on the minus as well. Knight of Wundagore, this card is already below par, and that's like minus 2 to minus 5, depending on the color combination. I think in Selesnya specifically it's minus 5, and I think the reason for that is that people draft it and then try to go for the +1/+1 counter synergy, and you shouldn't probably. Restorative Technique, again, minus 1.5 in Golgari, to minus 5 in to minus 5 in Selesnya, yeah. Cold Damage Control, another card that isn't in the wrong set. I think in some sets it would have been a very good card, and maybe putting a couple of cards that work well with it would have been a decent idea, but they didn't. And because of that, we have minus 5 in Selesnya, minus 7 in Simic, minus 7 in Gruul, and then, shockingly, plus 0.8 in Golgari, which is interesting that this card, specifically in Golgari, does pretty well. Powerful Broker is not living up to its name. The art of the deal is not working for that particular one. Minus 3, minus 4, minus 4, minus 6 across the board. Not really good at all. Super Strength. I played it yesterday. I played it because my dream was to cast it on my World 1 Captain America flyer and then pump all my heroes. I did it, and I won that game. I also was pretty weak elsewhere. If I have any advice, put Super Strength on your tokens for the same reason that I told you with other things. They can't be bounced at least. But minus 4.5 in Selesnya and not present anywhere else. So yeah, this is the problem that the green has with commons. It's a pretty shallow roster, and Skrull is absolutely the most important one. In terms of uncommons, we start with a really, really strong one, Khazar of the Savage Land. Who would have known that a 3/2 that brings a 2/2 that grows later, and that 3/2 also lets you look at the top card of the library and play lands from the top, is going to be good? Well, everyone, because most people said that it was one of the most powerful uncommons in the set, and it turned out that it is one of the most powerful uncommons in the set. Between +4 and +6.5, across the board, red, very good card. This one maybe is a bit more surprising. She-Hulk, Jade Defender. I don't know why Jade needs defending, but okay. Between 4 and 5%, very consistent across the board in terms of improvement. Really good card, really powerful. Punishing Punch, this one was probably easier to think that it's going to be pretty strong, but it's not as strong as the She-Hulk, so jokes on us, I guess. Still between 3 and 4 percentage points improvement. So all three so far were just universally good. And then we go to the second tier of the uncommons. Still good, but not amazing. And we have the White Tiger of Ayala. That one is between 1 and 2 percentage points improvement everywhere. So pretty strong. And then we have something that surprised me. I mean, I was high on that card in the previous season. Yeah, I like my 2/2 haste. I know that the mana cost is a bit complicated. But it dies into a 3/3, so Hellcat, Undying Vigilante. It does actually have positive numbers in Simic, Golgari, and Gruul. It's not so good in Selesnya because I guess Selesnya wants to be more white because it wants to utilize those powerful white cards. But I think that any other combination of green will want to be heavier on green because Skrull might be one of the most important cards you have. And if you have Skrulls, getting 2 green is much easier. Because you cast a Skrull, you already have 2 green. And you really want to turn to Skrull more than you want to turn to Hellcat. But Hellcat is still going to be good on turn 5 as a double spell turn. Then we have Reptile Dynamorpher. I'm shocked that it actually has positive numbers somewhere. It's around 0 everywhere. 0 in Selesnya and Golgari, 1.5 plus in Gruul, and minus 0.8 in Simic. So yeah, maybe I should start occasionally putting it in my deck. Mr. Hyde, I thought that this card might be good, but it's just mediocre. Plus 1.2 in Selesnya, and then around 0 everywhere else. Hercules, I thought that this card is going to be bad, and it's probably better than I thought. Because it is minus 2 in Selesnya and Golgari, but it's at 0 in Simic and Gruul, which is interesting. Rick Jones, on the other hand, I don't think it's good. The cost of the ability is way too high. And the chance of missing is also way too high. So minus 3 in Selesnya, no data anywhere else. Yeah, 3 mana for that ability is just too much. Tigra Feline Fury, I think there are spots for that card. They are very few and very far between. Mostly with Heroic Feast or something, and you want to build that kind of a deck in Abzan space. It's minus 3, minus 2. In Simic, it's minus 0.8. That's its best, but not amazing. I do still think that there are decks that Tigra is going to be actively good in. The eternal creature design of let's make it underrate, but with some extra work it can become sort of as good as Captain America Living Legend is on its rate. And this is the problem with those cards. You put work and get the same thing color pairs get for free. Minus 2 in Selesnya, minus 1 in Golgari, minus 3 in Gruul, and minus 4 in Simic. Just no. The thing Ben Grimm, turns out that 6 mana 7/7 Trampler with some upside is not good enough in modern days. Minus 2, minus 3, minus 5 in Golgari, where probably you don't have enough heroes to activate it as well. Just not good enough. Doc Samson, Super Psychiatrist, annoying card when you face it, but somehow the numbers show that it's not winning anything. Between minus 2 and minus 3.5. Training Regimen, like make this card 3 mana so at least it doesn't die to Murdoch's Crusade, but it does. It's slow. It doesn't do enough. And even if it does do enough, then it will get Crusaded. So yeah, it's not really good for Training Regimen. Between minus 2 and minus 5. Claim the Kingdom, similar story as the Regimen, but even worse. This one has between minus 4 and minus 6. So 3 really, really strong uncommons. Big gap. Decent White Tiger, and then sort of filler things with Hellcat, Reptile, Mr. Hyde, and then we go into the territory of things that I probably actively don't want to put in my deck. So yeah, not and importantly, I think nothing that is really striking me. Oh, this card is really good in this particular archetype. Green rares and mythic, and green also doesn't have bombs. I still think that this is a color that is the secret to unlocking something late in the format, but it very much relies on the undercover scrolls. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl is maybe not unbeatable, but it's hard to beat at least. This is something that I've experienced already. And it's between like plus 6 in Gruul And in Selesnya and Simic it is like around +3, and Golgari closer to +6. You need to be heavy on the green, you need to have the Skrulls also to unlock the unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and I think that part of the lower win rate is the intensity of green mana that you need to play that card and to activate it. Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I've done the stats on that card. And in like normal deck with 16 creatures, the chance of your expected value is hitting 2 creatures from it, and maybe more than 50% of the time you hit 3 or more. I had a beautiful one when I hit 5 and made it into a 7 for 1. That was a lovely time. But the card is good. It's not a meme card. It's a real bomby card. Maybe not like super bomby, but definitely a solid card. And of course, there will be days when you will hit nothing and you will feel very, very sad that you tapped the creature and spent 6 mana on nothing. But a lot of the time you're going to get 2 drawn cards that are cast for free and often for more mana than you spent on Earth's Mightiest Heroes. So +5% in Simic and then +3 in Selesnya, +2 in Golgari. No data for Gruul, but I think in Gruul is going to be even better than anywhere else. Then we have Epic Fight. It's a very good fight spell. It's as good as fight spell as you can get. +3% in most colors, in Golgari only +1. Still a very, very good card. I was drafting a couple of days ago and my pack 1 pick 1 was Epic Fight and 2 copies of Wolverine. And I wondered, also there was Hulk Smash. I'm thinking, how much bite and fight spells in one pack can you get? And that was probably on the higher end of the spectrum. I did pick one of the Wolverines, instantly regretted it, never could play it. Then we have Moleman, the Moloid Master, and it does have +2.6 in Golgari. Turns out that you will self-mill more in Golgari, and the Moloids might actually do some good things for you. In Selesnya, it's like -0.2, which is at the level of mediocre common, so you don't want to be playing it too much. And -3 in Simic. So yeah, I think that Shazel is expressing what we all think, that I'm shocked that it's positive anywhere. And +2.6 is not just positive, it's quite good. And that it's much better in Selesnya than I would have expected. And I agree with that sentiment. I also had the same kind of feelings about it. But you should know that this is probably a Golgari card because of how high you have to pick it to put it in your deck. Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. 0 in Simic, -3 in Selesnya. I think the big price you have to pay for that card is its pick order. You pick a 2-drop that sometimes will be great and most of the time it will be vanilla at the price that you will have to pick one of the better cards in your deck. And I do have a sneaky suspicion it will be better in Gruul because of the big power-up abilities there, but we don't have enough data to tell that. Heroic Feast, another one. I don't know if you played the midweek metagame, but I did, and I built myself a Heroic Feast deck. The format was constructed, but you only can play Marvel superheroes and Foundations. And my Healer Hawk Heroic Feast deck easily got me the whatever reward it was. Having said that, I think that there is a deck for it. Again, a deck that comes together rarely, and I wouldn't recommend forcing it. But if it falls into your lap, you're gonna be having a lot of fun because the card is good. It's like, basically it's an Ouroboros that is hard to kill. So this one does cost 3 mana, unlike the training regimen that I was complaining about. And the fact that it spots you some life gain is good, but let's think about which cards are good with it. And I think that the only solution space for it is Abzan, and I'm pretty sure that cards that are good with it is the 1 mana thingy that taps to give something +1 and gains you a life. Hydra Infiltration is going to be good with Heroic Feast. Obviously Cruel Alliance is going to be great. The Rapid Response is going to be fine. All those cards can come together and make a decent deck. but it's not something that you can expect to force. It's something that will have to fall into your laps. World War Hulk, weirdly +3 in Simic, and then -5 in Selesnya, -4 in Golgari, and -1.3 in Gruul. I can't explain why Simic is so happy to have it, but here we are. I wouldn't ignore that number. I cannot explain it though. So that's the end of it. 3 really solid rares, but nothing like super amazing. And then Moleman, which is weirdly good in Golgari, and World War Hulk, which is weirdly good in Simic, and I can't explain any of those. Brings us to the last part, the multicolors. And we start with the uncommons, and we start with Killmonger, and the card that is just so powerful that it's absolutely worth splashing, as you can see by those numbers. In Golgari it's +6.6 in its own color pair, but in Dimir and Rakdos it's at +7. And this is like how you make your Rakdos deck good. You play Killmonger in it. And this also encourages you to play the Villainous Hideout, which, you know, is already good in that deck, but it lets you cast Killmonger. And you have the best fodder because all your creatures are crap and you don't care about sacrificing them. So, yeah, good combination of bad creature quality that lets you sacrifice them without regret. But in Selesnya, Simic, and Orzhov, still it's at +3, +4 percentage points. So it's worth splashing in almost every deck that you can imagine. Spider-Woman Secret Agent is the second best of the multicolor uncommons. And weirdly enough, it's at its best in Dimir with +5.9. But it's good everywhere. Is it at its weakest at +1? But Azorius and Boros +2, and then Selesnya Simic +3, and Orzhov +4. So it's a very good card. It's a solid removal spell. It's annoying to deal with because you don't want to point your removal at a 1/4, and yet often you have to. Okay, then we have Captain America Living Legend. It's +1/+1, +1.1 in Azorius, where it should be played, and +1/+0.1 in Azorius is really good because Azorius already has a high win rate, but not amazing, but really good. Let's check. The Spider-Woman has +1.8, and again for the same reason, but it's -8.5 in Selesnya. This is not a card that you want to be splashing, but it's good in its own colors, and you should be happy to draft it and play it. U.S. Agent Johnny Walker. A card with mixed numbers. A lot of them are positives. Dimir +3. Orzhov +3. You get that free equipment for your equipment team. That's just great. +1 in Azorius, Selesnya, and Rakdos, which, you know, means that John Walker, U.S. Agent, is as good as Captain America Living Legend. But it does have -1 in both Golgari and Boros. So worth noting, at least. It's not unplayable there, it's just not going to be that great. Abomination is maybe another card that is sort of flying a bit under the radar. I think that people don't appreciate how good it is. And, you know, it's +4 in Izzet, +2 in Simic, Golgari, Gruul, and Rakdos. It's roughly on par in Selesnya at +0.5. And the only archetype where it's not doing amazingly on plus is Boros with -1.2. But a very solid card. And yeah, nothing wrong with that. Titania Rugged Rambler. This is a card that, you know, I told you a lot about the cards that are having bad numbers, and I never had, and I always get beaten by them. This is the opposite. This is the card that has good numbers, and somehow I always have a perfect answer for it. My opponent plays it on turn 3, I untap, I play my 4th land and cast Murdoch's Crusade. I just exchange 4 mana for 3 mana and a card that they discarded, or something like that. Never threatened me in any way or shape or form, but that's just what you get from having small sample size in your experience. You will see those weird things like Captain America, Marvel Civil War, not doing anything to me ever. I'm just lucky. That card has 70% win rate. Of course it is a very good card that is dangerous. I was just lucky that every time my opponent cast it, I had a perfect answer in hand. But anyway, Titania, +5 in Rakdos, which makes it almost good. +3 in Gruul, and then +3 also in Simic, and then around +1 in Orzhov, Golgari, and Demir, and then -1.2 in Selesnya. But yeah, it is just big. It's just a rate monster, and it's a pretty convincing rate monster. 3 mana 5/5 is not nothing. Okay, Black Widow. The nuisance, as I call it. Most of the time, the card is what I just said, a nuisance. But it's a nuisance with +2.1% win rate, so it makes it perfectly fine. Only played in Orzhov, not the card that you want to be splashing. But quite good there. Annoying, and sometimes annoying to the point where it becomes dangerous. Black Panther, on the other hand, is maybe one of the most overrated multicolor uncommons. It's picked quite highly, and the numbers are unconvincing. It's around 0 in Selesnya, but people splash it a lot, and it's like -3 in Azorius, -4 in Simic. Not worth the effort of splashing. There are better things that you want to splash. Spider-Man to the rescue. This is the hybrid Selesnya card. And it's like underwhelming everywhere. -2 in Boros, -2 in Azorius, around -1 in Selesnya, Orzhov, and Gruul, and Golgari-ish, +0.5 in Simic, the only color combination where it was reasonably fun. It's just not good enough for where you have to pick it. Kank Temporal Tyrant, the Demir signpost, and that one is +2, so it's fine. Hulk Gamma Goliath, also +2, and also fine in Gruul, and it's passable in Simic and Selesnya, depending on how hard it is to cast it, at -0.1, -0.7. I would rather have other reasons to splash red in those other color combinations, but yeah, it's fine in Gruul. It's big, it's very big. It can kill you very, very drastically and quickly. Iron Man Master of Machines, at least is it got a good signpost. It's a +3%. But people try to splash it in Azorius, and it's not worth it because it's at -3.2. Ant-Man Colony Commander, the Simic signpost, -1 in Simic, and that's never a good sign if your signpost is at -, and -5 in Selesnya. Just not worth it. Bullseye, on the other hand, has some spots. It's +1.7 in its color pair, which is Rakdos, and around +1 in Demir and Golgari. And then there are colors where you should be putting it. -1 in Orzhov, -2 in Izzet, and -5 in Boros. So mixed bag, but at least it's good in where it's supposed to be good. I assume in Izzet people want to make artifacts and sacrifice them to it, but it just doesn't work. Ghost. Spectral Saboteur. Better numbers than I would expected. Definitely horrendous in Azorius at -6, but 0 in Orzhov, unblockable thing that you can equip with many things, is not bad. And -0.7 in Demir, which is also bordering playability. Just, I told you, Demir wants to be evasive, and this is very evasive. War Machine, on the other hand, bad numbers across the board. Maybe with Vision Quest it's playable, but other way, -3, -4, -5 across the board where it's played. Thor Odinson, -2 in Boros. I mean, 5 mana, 4/4 flyer with no hope of getting extra value apart from hoping to untap with it is not good enough. -8 in Azorius. I hope people learned by now not to put it in there or anywhere else. Beast, Erudite Aerialist. Not so smart to actually win games. So -5 and to -8 shows that erudition is overrated. Speedball, similar situation between -4 and -8. This is such a weird card that you want to be testing it, but it just doesn't work most of the time. And it might be that 17 lands players are just too weak to get some like really cool combos with it, but there's not enough spells that can target Speedball to make it a good card. I think in some formats it would have been absolutely amazing. If that card was printed in Secrets of Strixhaven, I would probably play my fingers to the bone, getting Speedball triggers everywhere, because it was a much more conducive format for that. Speedball is another target for your 4/4 aura. Well, yeah, but I mean, they will get me with web up every single time if that happens. But yeah, I can see that happening, and yeah, it's already the super intelligence also works with that. But nature will find a way around it, and I'm not a I'm not gonna be happy about it. And also, like, if I play Speedball and +4/+4 aura, it means I play 2 bad cards, just hopefully make 2 of them good together. And that's not what I want to be doing, because 80% of the games I'm going to draw one or the other, not both. And then what are we going to do? Madame Hydra, -2 in Rakdos, -7 in Demir, and -5 in Golgari. Again, so understated for what it presents, and then you hope to untap with it. And turns out it's not enough. Even in Rakdos. Rakdos already has the lowest win rate, and that still decreases the win rate in Rakdos. Okay, cool. That's our uncommons in a big table. And what I think, what is interesting in there? Well, maybe that Killmonger and Spider-Woman are the ones that you want to be watching, and Captain America is only good where it should be played. Maybe some discrepancies with the US agent John Walker, and Abomination probably and Titania being better than you might think is something to look into. Yeah, Bullseye also is good in a couple of archetypes, but in bad archetypes, unfortunately, which reflects in the 53% game in hand win rate in total. Cool. Multicolors, rares, and mythics. And we start with the villain of the set, the superhero Civil War. Between +10 and +16. In +16 is in Boros itself. This card is just such a bomb. Just pick it, whatever. I'm not gonna waste my breath on it. We know it's good. But so is Avengers Under Siege, another saga that is strong. Between +8 and +14, +14 being in Rakdos in its distant color combination. It's played in Golgari, Dimir, and Rakdos, basically. So these are the villain colors. Wolverine is another one that maybe is... I mean, you know it's good, but maybe not how good it is. If you play that card on curve, it's just... game is over. Between +8 and +12. And +12 in Simic, actually. Played in enough in all the green color combinations, which means Skrull to the rescue if you don't have the red. The Coming of Galactus, maybe because of the mana requirements, but this one is only played in Golgari in a sufficient... this is specifically draft, yeah. Purple Sofam. Purple's Ofam. I don't know. Whichever way, wherever the space is in that, you will insert it correctly. So yeah, Coming of Galactus probably because of mana requirements, because of the double black in the pips. Only played in Golgari. +10, so solid. Yeah. Another one that will just die to Murdoch's Crusade without achieving much. But at least you will get something, so you are ahead on that exchange. Cloak and Dagger, another solid one. +7 in Orzhov, but also +7 in Selesnya and +3 in Azorius. It's a very solid card and very annoying to play against. Another card that hopefully is out there. People know it's great. Vision Quest, +9 in Izzet, +5 in Azorius. But I played it in Simic with great success. It is very easy to splash if you have green-blue. And it's worth splashing, because any stupid 2/2 flyer is going to become a massive problem if you cast it with Vision Quest. So don't sleep on this card. Make sure that you play it. It can be played in almost any deck, and almost any creature that you can get out with it is going to be great. Preferably it has some kind of evasion. This is one of the reasons to play War Machine in your deck, in my opinion. But if you play the actual Vision and find it with Vision Quest, that become outrageous very quickly. Synthesis is a bit maybe below par because it just can be blocked. That's my problem. But it's still not terrible. Vision is a great target. You get the 6 mana, hasty, draw a card, 4/4 flyer. 6/6 flyer, sorry. There's nothing wrong with that. So yeah, I mean, think of, you can get the Super Adaptoid with it as well. Despite not having flying, I'm pretty sure it will quickly gain it. So yeah, cool card. King T'Challa at around +5 in Azorius, also splashable in Simic. Strong card, but maybe not as strong as the other ones. Ruinous Wrecking Crew. Look at this beauty. It's a bomb. It's just a bomb in the wrong colors, and the fact that it has +10 in Rakdos, Dimir, and Golgari, or even +12 in Golgari, does not mean that it's going to have as high win rate as cards in better color pairs. It only has +4.5 in Orzhov, but that's not only. Look, it's late. It's 1:30. I'm tired. My excitement. I like the set. But I also want to put the right context into it. Luca is saying I don't sound exciting in analyzing the set, but it's hard to. It's too hot. Also, like England is not supposed to be hot. We're in a heat wave again. So maybe that all those things, and also I'm after a marathon of 2 weeks of marking student papers, which also squeezes out all the enthusiasm of you. I like the set. I do think that it's a flawed one, but I'm having fun discovering and trying to figure out what should be done. All right, the Mighty Thor, Jane Foster, and here we have +4 in Selesnya and Azorius. It's best with Hero in Training, and it has similar win rate as Hero in Training, so there you go. Storm, that's a very interesting card. It's sort of like either does nothing or wins you the game. +5.7 in Selesnya, which means that it is actually much better in winning the game than doing nothing. And also +1 in Azorius, where it has a large enough sample size. But it is a fine card. And I played with it yesterday, and my opponent started like Doombot into the 2/2 flyer, into Ants, and then equipped Absorbing Man with the Falcon Wings. And we built this like board that was staring at each other because I had some things with Reach. And then I just drew Storm. Nothing that they had could block it, just like 1-in-1 attack. Lovely times. My opponent must have been throwing the keyboard on the wall or something. It does happen sometimes, and that's the kind of a thing that this card might do once in a while. Talking about Absorbing Man. Luca Mani claims I'm not an Absorbing Man today. I'm going to have to live with that stigma for the rest of my life, but I'll be fine with it, don't worry. Absorbing Man is +5 in Simic. It's a very, very good card when you can cast it on curve. And I think that this is one thing that is important about it. You really want to cast it on turn 3 and then on turn 4 have it as a vigilant land mana dork, sort of. It still does have a decent +1.5 in Azorius. I'm pretty sure it's got good numbers in Boros when we get this large enough sample size. So, really nice card. It's just a big thing. And sometimes you will be able to... In Boros, I'm in Golgari. Sometimes you will get weird things like copying their plans when you can activate it like once and get some kind of a small value. Or I had it copying my opponent's the thing that makes one that has to attack and then makes another one that makes it attack. I was copying that for a couple of turns, and we basically had 2 copies of the same thing. So you can copy other things. Winter, very solid in Orzhov, plus 5.6. Now, of course, suffering a bit from Orzhov not being as strong. I do think that Orzhov, from this archetypes that have slightly lower win rate, is the best one in terms of the potential to be a winning archetype. And I think late format, we will be drafting a lot of Orzhov decks. I'm just now checking myself if I'm saying the right color pair. So yeah, very, very good card. You know, like 2 mana, 2/2 vigilance, even though it's a bit hard to cast, is fine. You equip it with the shield and all of a sudden it becomes a 5/3. And then if it dies, you just, eventually you're going to pay 5 mana to draw a 2/2 and put it on the battlefield, which is not a terrible thing. Daredevil, another good one. It's +3 in Boros, but it's also +3 in Selesnya, and it's also plus 0.6 in Azorius. The decks that already want to be sometimes splashing red for the Super Civil War Saga, but also a lot of the time have Avengers Tower, which allows it to cast it very easily, and are chock full of heroes. So a very good splash there from Daredevil. Keep in mind it triggers on any attack you make, not only on the attack with the Daredevil itself. Astonishing Ant-Man, solid +2. It's not a bomb level, but it's like a good uncommon kind of level of power. Serpent Society, the Golgari signpost rare, I guess not signpost, multicolor rare, +3.5 and in Golgari, and I don't think that this card needs a lot of work around. You can put some of the 1/1 Death Touchers, they are fine in Golgari anyway, so that's it. And the worst case scenario, you get this, and if they target it once and you have some kind of a recursion, then you have basically a hexproof 3/4 Death Toucher, which is really good if you have any bite and fight spells in your deck. Kingpin, another one that only has numbers from Orzhov, but +3.5. Very solid. I mean, this is another rate monster, really, because you will pay that 2 life to get a 3 mana 5/5. And you can have weird curveouts like start with the turn 2 Raft Guard, I want to say, Raft Officer. And then turn 4 you can attack for 8. That's pretty strong. Raft Security Officer, thank you very much. Then we have Ares, God of War. Its only numbers come from Rakdos, but they're good numbers. I do think maybe Ares can be played in some sort of Golgari with a Junt flavor, where you will have, or even Gruul with the Junt flavor, when you have some big creatures that will attack. They do require multiple blocks most of the time in order to be neutralized, which means that if you can replay them and re-attack with them multiple times, you're going to be using it as a sort of source of card advantage. It is super annoying, and I think that this best description of that card is super annoying. Now, obviously, you can deal with it by, like, I don't know, putting it under a shield or making sure that you deploy a big blocker and they have to attack into it and then recast Ares every turn, which is annoying for them, on the other hand. So I never had problems with this card, but I've seen games where it was taking over the game very easily. Then we have Taskmaster Mercenary Mimic. I'm pretty sure that this card can be absolutely broken at some times, but the reality is average is 0. And that was the last of this batch. And we see all of those multicolor cards are roughly good. And I have a couple of leftovers. That includes Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. The card that I always try to make work, but just never make work. I'm trying, but I'm failing. It does have plus 1.2 in Izzet, but again, Izzet is not great. And minus 0.3 in Simic, where I try to play it most of the time. And minus 3 in Azorius. So yeah, it rarely pops off. I think that you need to have a good density of artifacts somehow. And Scientist Supreme of Aim is just a hard to cast 2-drop with not much upside. sometimes will come, but the minus 0.6 is not impressive in any way. Alien Invasion, that's probably the biggest disappointment. That's the one that I was talking about, making aliens and making more and growing them. This looks like a good card, but it seems like it's just a bit too slow. And also the 4 mana means that if it becomes a problem, it can be dealt with Murdoch's Crusade, which is omnipresent in my opponent's deck every single time. And also the double red. I think if it was green, red one in the mana value, it would have been, in mana cost, it would have been a slightly better card, but the double red is a big requirement. It's a big ask, and you basically have to play it in Gruul decks. You cannot splash it in something else. I think it would have been better if it would be like splashable in Simic or something. Minus 0.3 is not horrible, but it's a rare. You would expect way more from that. Armor Wars is just bad, minus 5 in Izzet already. And this brings us to the end of the card list. We went through the whole set, giving context for every color combination wherever it's possible, which is not, not nothing. It was hard work. Hopefully you appreciated and enjoyed it and learned something new. The reality is that in this set, a lot of cards are either universally good or universally bad. And this is a bit disappointing because what I like in my set is to have those niche cards that I can find some corner cases. We've seen some of those, so it's not a completely useless activity. And it's also important to know those universally good cards. So hopefully you get a better overview of the format, and some things were surprising for you. And I know that they must have been surprising for you because they were surprising for me. And I sit in the data and I read it like on a daily basis, and I still was surprised with that particular analysis in some points. So despite watching the win rates a lot, sometimes this extra granularity of looking at color pairs gives you a different kind of situation. But all right, 1:30. I'm ready for Nana and sleep. I'll see you there next week. Oh no, I won't see you next week because I will be in Amsterdam. Haha. Maybe I will make one cheeky episode before I go to Amsterdam, but I am not sure if I will be able to do it before that. But in any case, if not, I'm trying to make something like after the Pro Tour, maybe less data-centric, but more experience of what happened in the MagicCon. If you're there, find me. I'm going to be sporting my... I made myself t-shirts with my avatar because I know that a lot of you listened to me in the podcast or heard me on the limited resources, so no one knows how I look like in the real world. So I printed t-shirts with my Einstein with Kiss makeup. So if you see someone in those, that's me because I'm the only one that has them. Cheerios and bye-bye.